Hello everybody and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will and today I will not be your Dungeon Master, but I will be your host today as we dive in to Numenera! It's back, it's better than ever, and we have some of the old crew back. Some of them couldn't be here. Shots at Mike. But the rest of us here, some new people are here as well. So we have Mitch as our Dungeon Master. Once again, how's it going, Mitch?
It is going well. I was really excited to see how polished that transition was. It's been 4 months been gone, and you're just doing great. So good.
Absolutely nailed it. I absolutely nailed it.
Fucking nailed it. No, I couldn't be more stoked to be back on board with another season. New vibe this season. Same good times to be had. So excited to get rolling.
Absolutely. Mike resubscribed for 6 months. Thank you, sir. He says, I'm so sorry I couldn't be there for episode 1. I suck. Take my money. Alright, well, we'll forgive you for now. For now, Mike. But how long will it last? We'll see. So, let's go around and find out who we're playing. What's going on? Who's with us today? And what the fuck is happening, basically. So, we have the big deal in the house. We've got Trainsy. How's it going, man? You're muted. There we go. Try saying something.
There we go.
There we go.
On Zoom. It's usually the board. It's awesome. I'm excited to participate in this new system and see how everything unfolds. And my native system before getting into Encounter was D20 and Stars D20, so it's interesting coming back to something more mixed futuristic with a completely different play style.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have back with us Latour Squall. How's it going, dude?
Hey, how you doing, man? Happy to be here. I too am new to this system, but am excited to go into it. It's certainly interesting to read about, and the artwork for the books and everything is amazing, and just sort of the concept of how sort of resource management that happens in it kind of intrigues me. So I am looking forward to it. So bear with me as I learn the fun and excitement that is Numenera, and hopefully can hang with all of these guys who are coming back from season for a 3rd season or 4th season or whatever it is.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. We have actually previously played 2 seasons of Numenera, but you don't have to have seen any of those for this to make any sense, thankfully. So that's good. But we also have back with us returning triumphant from the previous seasons. Josh, how's it going, dude? Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
yeah, I'm good. I'm super psyched. This was like the thing.
You're super quiet, Josh. Actually.
One sec. How about now?
Better.
Now?
Worse.
Yeah, definitely worse.
check you haven't changed it in Zoom. I think you were in Zoom the other day and we changed some of your settings. I feel like that's what happened. But yeah, so yeah, we got Josh with us, and I'm back as well. But let's find out who we're playing. Let's find out what kind of characters we got going here today. So Trainsy, tell us about Ada, is it?
Yeah. So Ada, she was on the science track to be an astrophysicist on her native planet. A little, she's a bit alien, purple and opaque in skin, but on a routine journey to pick up some samples from a neighboring planet, she ran into a turf war. And in between that turf war, she was taken in by a rival gang. And that rival gang interrogated her to the brink of death. What they didn't know that of her species, they implanted a chip in their brain. And that chip in her brain is intended to use when they're brought to a near-death experience. So the chip took over, it took all of her cognitive function, and she proceeded to eradicate the rest of that clan. The consequence of this, aside from her being more sickly looking, is that Ada, the chip, recognized that it needed to take more control. So she has a bit of a split personality, with Ada making the majority of the decisions, and Avery being her foremost self, carrying kind of the emotional backing behind everything.
Nice. Awesome. Excited to meet Ada. Tall School, talk to me about Tempest.
So Tempest is a mutant. He in our world, there's something called the Iron Wind, which is basically a nanostorm that kind of basically breaks down things into their like most basic form and put them back together, and can cause all kinds of crazy mutations and that type of stuff. So basically, he is, the best way to think of him is kind of an anthropomorphic displacer beast for those of D&D folks. And you know me, since I love all my my Pinterest and stuff, I've got a link to some artwork because I always find artwork first. Sort of looks like that. But in this world, mutants are not particularly welcomed, and get a lot of grief, really. So for the most part, what the world sees is he looks kind of like that. Wears this big giant trench coat and hooded type thing, basically in order to hide the fact that he's got an extra pair of arms and these 4 tentacles that stick out of his back, and his sort of somewhat feline face. So he was found by, just like we have sort of storm chasers and tornado chasers around the world. There are people called rust chasers who found him on this beach far over on the coast of the continent, and he was just kind of wandering around, didn't have much in the way of language skills or whatever. He hung out with them for a while and kind of learned to be socialized, kind of learned how to like maneuver things, like how to use a cup and a spoon with all these arms and stuff. He was kind of just kind of a hack and slash and bash guy with these tentacles and arms, and then slowly has gotten civilized. And I don't want to give away any of Mitch's story, but then starts heading on a journey to hopefully find a better place to be.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds great. And Josh, tell us about Vaz.
Okay, so Vaz grew up in a small building that was some sort of a...
Still coming through kind of quiet, just so you know. So check your Zoom settings that you're not kind of automatically adjusted or anything, and make sure your mic's on its highest possible volume so you can send booming waves out towards us.
Is that better?
That is perfect.
Whoa, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, right, so anyway, Vaz grew up in what was a foundry of some sort, way back when, from some previous lost era, that had a load of machinery, metal equipment, and stuff like that. One thing it had, obviously, was a lot of tools that meant that him and his clan were good at making stuff. Mostly weapons and armor and that sort of thing. Not a lot of fine crafted mechanical things, but occasionally, they come up with something. For example, these giant coal-fed skiffs that they sort of ride around on. And given the fact that they had some pretty good armor, some pretty good heavy weaponries, were sort of like rocking the old school Teutonic Knights sort of loadout of, except with loads of rivets and stuff through it and very industrial looking. So they decided, they'd go out and they needed to establish trade. So they did, and they offered protection to local villages. And in exchange, they would give them food, which was good. A couple of months ago, however, something terrible happened, and ever since then, Vaz has been on the run. He hasn't stopped moving once. He has a bit of a thing with, you guys would have noticed that things happen when his temper flares, and he is wielding a lot of heavy gear, a lot of armor, big-ass glaive in one hand, generally, and on his back he has a giant, what looks like a car battery, a huge industrial cable winch machine thing, and some sort of fire hose with a triggering mechanism just slung down his side. This guy looks like he's ready for war, but so far hasn't mentioned what he's running from.
Nice.
That's bad.
Nice. Awesome. Well, last but not least, I'm playing Jan Ehrlich. And he is a doomed nano who leads. So he is once was a bit of a freedom fighter and a bit of a rebel. Nowadays, Jan is very much the same, but just much more radical than he ever was. Kind of called maybe a terrorist and stuff like that would be kind of terminology used about Jan. He possibly is wanted by government officials. He's probably on some kind of watch lists and stuff like that because he's been into a lot of trouble in his youth, and again recently in about his 30s and 40s. He kind of settled down, had a wife and several kids, but after some event that is undisclosed by Jan about exactly what happened, they passed away, or he's lost them somehow, and he is now doomed. And he strongly believes, with a kind of radical faith, not any kind of religious faith though, he just strongly believes that we mutants, because he has a power to control objects, and some kind of telekinetic abilities, strongly believes that we mutants should not have to hide our abilities. We should not have to fear anyone or anything because we're born this way. And so he is looking to lead a group of people to to some kind of rebellion, most likely. But he believes that he himself is doomed due to his wife and kids being lost to him. But he believes that there might be hope for other mutants, despite the fact that there is none for him. So that is Jan. And Mitch, I guess I'll hand over to you, my friend.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. So I'm going to do a quick intro overview to Numenera, sort of generally for chat, a quick rundown of sort of what the settings entails, what's this world that we're playing in, and then I'm going to give a little bit of detail on what's the specific sort of version or iteration that this campaign is going to take place in. So the basic gist of the Numenera setting is that it takes place way far in the future, and in the far future there have been 8 previous attempts or sort of rises and falls of human civilization that have come to various catastrophic ends. And the current world that everyone lives in is the 9th world. So it's the 9th sort of iteration. They're roughly in their medieval period. So it's kind of a fantasy game in that sense. You've got fairly familiar tropes of, the local lord and dukes and feudal agrarian economies, but with a whole lot of strange monsters and tavern jobs and that kind of stuff. So familiar turf for D&D folks. But the landscape itself is also littered with high-tech, weird shit from these previous 8 worlds. So this game kind of emblematizes that quote that, sufficiently advanced technology is indiscernible from magic. So most folks go about their daily lives not understanding, not trusting these weird devices, this strange tech that are all collectively just called the Numenera as they go about their lives. But they're fairly common. They do sort of exist all over. Sometimes it's a strange ingestible pill that makes you grow 10 stories. Sometimes it's this, mechanical blaster that, paralyzes its targets. And sometimes it's a floating mountain range, strange weather phenomena, things like the Iron Wind. So that's the general backdrop to the Numeneran setting. But what we wanted to do with this season, we wanted to change it up a bit. We wanted a bit of a different vibe, something a little bit fresher. Because if that's super exciting to you, that basic premise, go watch season 1 and 2 and then come back here for seasons 3, 4. Because we wanted to try playing with the superhero sort of motif a little bit in these seasons. So we're going to see how that goes. It's still going to be very much Numenera. It's still going to be familiar territory, but we've built this campaign to sort of take on a bit of a different atmosphere, I guess. So what's happened recently within the history of the world is about 50 years ago, and this is the end of season 2. If you want to go and read up on some of the background shit, there'll be some cool little spoilers and Easter eggs that the players from previous seasons will notice for sure. And if you want to get in on that, you can go watch those seasons. But 50 or so years ago, there was this cataclysmic event where the world was showered by this meteor storm, and it sort of decimated huge swaths of territory. But more importantly, those meteors were shards. They were some type of magical, extra-dimensional, intraplanar crystals that when they were sort of touched or encountered by people in the 9th world, they gained incredible powers. And there were hundreds of thousands of these shards all over the planet. And so for the last 50 years, there's been this race of everyone trying to gather up these shards to become as powerful as they can. And most people suspect that this is this is not only how the 8 previous worlds all collapsed. There's suspicions that this is a cyclical meteor storm, but also that the ending of this race is what produces the next pantheon. So whoever wins and gathers up the most shards, that's how you get your next set of gods, as far as the people on Earth understand them. So that's all. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt you, Mitch, but Muse, just subscribed. Thank you so much. Welcome to the adventure, a gentle Muse, a scholar. Salute you. Thanks so much. All the support of the channel. I absolutely adore it. Thank you so much. You're awesome. Let's raise a drink in chat to the Muse. In fact, all the followers as well. We'll get to those in a little bit. Carry on, Mitch.
No worries. Thanks, dude. So 50 years ago, this sort of cataclysmic race to become the new set of gods happened. That's all in the past now. That's in the background. Very few people alive today have ever encountered someone who's seen a shard or touched a shard. But these pseudo-god figures, these titans, are still the boogeymen. They're sort of out there, and everyone's afraid that they're going to rampage, through their town, their village, etc. So what used to be a fairly common encounter in the Ninth World, people were mutated, they were different. People like Tempest, who encountered an iron wind, perhaps. Being different wasn't that weird in the Ninth World until this cataclysmic reign of shards, because now everyone is extremely cloistered. They're very suspicious. No one wants anything to do with anyone who's been near these shards, because they're worried that that's going to draw or attract these powerful beings, and it's going to bring ruin to their family and their community. So there's very few cities left. There's very little landscape left that's livable. But what is there, as far as communities, is extremely hostile to anything different or anything weird. So that's how we tried to build our sort of base different thing, because each of our PCs, and they could choose how and when they want to sort of divulge their shard-touched nature. Each one of our PCs in this season did encounter one of these shards at one point. It might have just been a fragment. Maybe their parents were shard-touched, not necessarily them, so they've inherited some form of that power, or maybe some other way, but in some way they're connected to this event that happened 50 years ago that ended our Season 2. They might not understand it. Those around them certainly don't understand it. But what's important is that it's marked our PCs as these hunted, these unwanted, these others with abilities that nobody trusts and nobody wants in their midst. So our party starts off all with a similar goal. They've spent various amounts of time, various years, sort of living this life of being persecuted, being hunted, trying to hide their abilities, hide their differences, perhaps, or, if they're like Jan, trying to sort of fight proudly for their differences. But ultimately, they've all decided that it's time to try their lot at the safer kingdom. So far, far to the east, in the Numeneran world, there's this strange mountain range that's a perfect ring. And this ring has no difference in terms of height. It's like one solid band of rock as tall as a mountain. There aren't sort of ups and downs in the peaks. And there's only one entrance into this ring. So this kingdom that's known as Augur, is sort of the last refuge. It's been flooded with an influx of migrants, people trying to run away from all this catastrophe going on, this fighting for the shards. And so everyone's been trying to get into this kingdom that's always been sort of cloistered. It's always been a bit safer. But for whatever reasons, personally or otherwise, all of our PCs have decided that it's time to stop trying to make their way in these backwaters, these small villages. There's just no hope for being different among people who are so afraid and so regularly encounter that kind of destruction. So you're all heading to the capital city of Sada, in the kingdom of Augur. And that is your hope. Your hope is to get there and find some way to live out whatever goals you might have. So those might be different, but for whatever reason, you've decided that you need to be somewhere slightly more civilized or perhaps just more populated. And what's crucial about Sada is you've all heard from various sort of avenues that there are a ton of shard-touched or mutants or others who are living in Sada safely, secretly, working jobs, etc. So if nothing else, you're maybe hoping to join some kind of community of like folks, or find some answers maybe to your questions on why you're different, where you came from, what your strange powers might mean. So that's the initial arc as we kick off this season.
Awesome.
So before we dive in, I'm going to roll some party connections with the party. So I like to do these at the beginning of sessions because they help get PCs sort of tangled. They sort of build relationships so that session one isn't quite as slow because you haven't done anything together yet. So we're going to say, for the purpose of time, that as a party, the four of you have been traveling together to get to this far eastern kingdom of Augur. You've been traveling for several months together. You would have encountered each other at different points. You wouldn't all sort of join up on one crossroads, but several months have passed that you've been traveling across this huge landscape. And over those several months, different things have happened. You've had lots of sort of events populate your time together, sort of building your relationships. So you're each going to roll me a D6, and that D6 is going to tie you to one of the other PCs somehow, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. Nice. This is so like flashbacky, to me.
Yeah.
This reminds me of episode 1.
Getting all emotion.
That's what my feelings.
1d6, yeah?
Yep.
Hold on. First roll.
And if we're lucky, they'll all be different.
I go for all the followers. Dr. Chakyon, Burl, Yeti Champ,
No.
Cobbler Lucas, Savako, Geo, Jeebus. Thank you guys for the followers.
I will re-roll.
No, they can be the same. I've got a plan.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all good.
He's a man of a plan.
Okay. All right. So we'll start with the two that are the same. So Josh and Will, your characters, Jan and Vaz. You two. Actually, I'm going to roll a D100 and Will call high or low because you're the host.
Always get high.
Cool.
Nailed it.
So, Will, you at some point when traveling, maybe the two of you traveled together first before meeting the other two, before meeting up with Tempest and Avery/Ada. But Jan, when you found or first encountered Vaz was in the process of being publicly humiliated, possibly, strung up, tarred, like really, really offensive, abrasive. There was a crowd, there was a sort of torch and pitchfork mob that was going after Vaz, and you saved him from that. Whether or not you had to use your powers, your abilities to do so, whether or not Vaz, had to use his powers to help. But there was this very intense moment where you are both aware that you are both connected to these shard touched, whether or not, you want the details to have been revealed to each other. But yeah, Jan, you saved Vaz from a sort of public execution.
Wow. Okay, cool. I'm going to be making notes of Liz.
Okay.
You're welcome, by the way.
Yes. Literally one roll and he's already
Yeah, I'm saving
You're
lives.
welcome, saving lives. Yeah.
So there's the sort of the bud or the origin of Jan and Vaz's relationship. So Tempest, Jay, you rolled a 2.
Yes.
So pick one of the other 3 party members. Doesn't matter which one.
I'll go with Transy.
Cool. All right. So at some point while you were traveling together, Ada and Tempest had already been on the road with one another heading to this big city. You both came upon a small village. You were planning on stopping there, for a night or so, resupply, restock, etc. But in the course of the evening, something catastrophic happened to the village. You're not really sure what, but the village caught ablaze. This huge wildfire swept through the village. And so the two of you, tried to do your part, save as much supplies as you can. And at one point, you were in a barn because you both sort of met up, having heard the screams of a family from inside this barn that was trapped. And you both had to use some of your powers or reveal some aspect of your being a shard touched to help save the people that were in this barn. So you both know that little bit about them. So Tempest, how much or what would he have revealed? So you can choose. It's your discretion what extent of otherness you would have sort of shown to Ada to help these people.
So does it need to be revealing our shard touched piece of us, or would I have been revealing that I was a deep mutant?
Anything that's you're not a normal human, but you had to have revealed something to Ada in that rescue.
So I think probably that in order to, maybe there was a kid or someone who had climbed up into, or maybe was sleeping in the hayloft, and the ladder had caught on fire, so they weren't able to get down. So I yanked off my coat and used my 4 arms and 4 tentacles basically to climb up and be able to rescue this child who was up in the hayloft. And so cat was out of the bag at that point. Her tentacles were out of the trench coat at that point.
Cool.
So,
Cool.
No mistaking that he's got 6 extra limbs.
The extra limbs. Cool. All right.
2 extra arms.
All right. Sounds good. So Ada, what would you have done to indicate that you're different? I know you probably already look the most different, just like straight out of the gates, than the rest of the party. But yeah, give me a little something that Tempest knows that the other 2 wouldn't, that occurred during this rescue.
So I think in almost just mechanical and fashion, Ada was both like rebuilding and disassembling parts of the barn to kind of create it as a more safe environment. Like, something is going to shambles, and with like extreme speed, she is just like quickly carpentering everything to the point and evacuating people as quickly, just sprinting at a pace that would be unnatural.
So it's kind of like inhuman autopilot that's just like processing and reacting really fast. Yeah, cool.
You dated on her on Tempest. for those next gen folks, Commander Data.
Yeah. And Ada, how would you have reacted to seeing Tempest's extra limbs?
I think just indifference. It would have been more of a calculation or a mental note, like an evaluation of skill and how that could apply to survival or the party's benefit later.
Okay. But you said you're from like another planet, right? You're like not even from this solar system. Cool. Roll me a quick knowledge, we'll say like astronomy or anything related in case you got proficiencies that way. On a difficulty 3, so a DC 3. And if you've got anything that would help to reduce that before you roll.
Do we want to walk through how rolling works?
Sure.
Totally lost.
Yeah. No, I could just.
Sure. So for chat as well as the new players, in Numenera, all of your rolls are rolled against a difficulty class, a DC from 1 to 10. And what you're trying to roll for is if the difficulty is a 3, whatever the number is, the target number on your D20 is the DC times 3. So it's sort of complex, but if you've got a difficulty 3, that means you're trying to get 9 or higher. And all of the modification, whether it's from skill proficiencies, somebody helping you to accomplish the task, environmental things that make it more or less difficult, instead of adding and subtracting those from the total that you roll on your D20 against like a fixed DC, you slide the DC up and down before making the roll, and then you've got the DC you're rolling against. So the base DC for this knowledge astronomy, something astrological, is a 3. If Ada's trained in that type of knowledge, that would reduce the DC to a 2 before trains even rolls. If he had like a data pad with like a bunch of star tracking shit on it, that could reduce it again. So you reduce or increase the DCs before rolling at all.
Would knowledge of Numenera apply at all? Or is it mostly...
Probably not, yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to roll normally.
Cool.
12.
Sweet, so a 12 against a 9 as your target. You don't know what Tempest is, but you definitely know that some part of Tempest is not from this planet. It is not like a natural mutation like you've seen other mutants here. Like you're tracking something in the tissue of his tentacles particularly. That tissue is not like a native molecular structure to like Earth shit. There's something extra dimensional.
I love how scientific that sounded right until the end where it's just Earth shit.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Cool. All right, and then last but not least, Trainsy with a 4. Oh, perfect. So, Trainsy, Ada, at some point over the course of traveling on the road, you learned an extra piece of information about this city that you're going to, an extra important detail about this sort of mutant community, this like weird shard-touched community that lives, pseudo underground in this city. And you shared that to the party. So you're sort of like, you're the guide, or you gave them slightly more direction. Suddenly pandas Will, are you gonna?
Oh, buddy, Gareth is here. He says hashtag fuck him. Thank you, my friend. I wish I could say Gareth was a gentleman and scholar, but he wasn't here for the finale of Stonking's Thunder. So
Subflex for Garrett. For Garrett.
So fuck him.
So
Race drink and chat for Gareth, friends. Thank you, dude.
Indeed.
6 months, my lord.
cool. Thanks, man.
Bam.
Yeah, so Transy, Ada knows of something called the Grub Street Mission. The Grub Street Mission is like a homeless shelter / like soup kitchen in one of the poorer districts of the city that you're heading to. And Ada somehow like figured out, or through some contacts, or discussing with folks on the road, that the woman who runs the Grub Street Mission is actually like running it as a front, as like an entry point and like a haven. It's like a safe space for mutants, supers, shard touch, that sort of thing. So it's this very well-kept secret within the city. She's a very well-connected woman within the city that sort of keeps barriers up where they might not otherwise be. So where the rest of the party just wanted to get to this big city for some reason, you said, this is our first stop, because this is where we might have somewhere if we need to, lay low for a while.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. All right. So, where you're heading to, like I said, is within this mountain range. It's this strange ring of a single stone that's been pulled out of the ground. It's Belk has just subscribed, as if coming out of
Oh, buddy, new subscriber. It's
ground.
Belk. Thank you, my friend. Welcome into the Gentleman's Club. I salute you, sir. Gentlemen, scholars. We're going to have viewer decisions out our wazoo as we join into this one. Now, actually, they're going to be, for this show, they're twists of fate. Woo! We'll go into more depth about how viewer decisions work with Numenera in this show, because this is, if you don't know as well, a long-running campaign. So it's not just a little shitty 2-sessioner. It's manly, and
This one's got bite.
it's got endurance. It does. Thank you. My
so
friend.
much stamina, the best stamina. the
It'll
most.
last all night.
All night long. Oh boy, let's move on.
Cool. All right, so where you're heading, you're heading into this kingdom that's protected by this ring of mountains. But in order to get there, you've got to pass through the only way into this sort of cloistered ring, this kingdom within the mountains. And there's one cut right through it. And again, this is part of one of these previous worlds. This is not something that was constructed within anyone's lifetime here. It's one of these strange natural phenomena. But this ring of mountains has one perfectly straight line carved right through it, about half a mile wide. That's called the sheer. So you're going to be moving your way through the sheer, the sort of final stretch of your journey. Again, you've been on the road for a long time. And then you finally make your way to the sheer, where you're walking through this sort of massive column of stone to the left and the right as you head in and hopefully manage to get into this kingdom, at which point you'll make your way to this capital city. But as you're walking into the sheer, it's roughly sort of early spring. There's still snow on the ground. It's fairly cool, although it's been getting a little bit milder by midday, but definitely still below freezing in the evening. You're walking through the sheer with a small caravan, other travelers, maybe some traders, and no small amount of other, refugees or folks who are hoping to find a new home within the kingdom of Augur. And you can see well ahead of you that what should just be like a small gate, you knew that there was a wall within the sheer to protect this kingdom. You see an enormous wall, several hundred feet high, and you see an enormous camp, a sort of slum tent city that stretches back towards you. You're going to be walking through it for the better part of an hour before you can get to these gates. And I want everybody to roll me a perception check. The DC on this is only going to be a 2 as the base, and it's visual.
Okay. Let me find this sheet. I forgot how I roll things on it. Welcome. Nice. 16 from me.
Okay, so 16 for
13.
Jan. Vaz rocks a 13. Jay only on an 8. And I think Trainsy, 6. Okay, good. So Tempest and Ada don't really process this. You can sort of track or come up with what sort of distraction may have gotten in your way otherwise. But Jan and Vaz definitely can tell, even before entering this camp, that there's a smell. You can smell rotting flesh. You can smell a severe lack of sanitation. There are thousands of people living in these shitty tents. And because you've got these enormous stone sort of mountainous walls on either side, and there's nothing growing here, you imagine it's pretty scarce to come by food naturally. There's no source of running water within the shear. So you've got a bad feeling about the state of this camp as you're coming towards it. Yeah.
So, I guess for a quick visual description of what Jan looks like, he looks kind of... I mean, he looks like a fairly normal guy, except he's got really big kind of bags under his eyes, and he wears a kind of like trench coat, which is kind of cut in a fairly garish way, but it's seen better years, so it's probably about as old as he is, maybe, and covered in grime as well. He's got kind of flicky kind of hair, I suppose, that kind of flops over one side that he really doesn't like look after very well, and a pretty thick black beard as well, and his eyes are very dark brown, almost to the point of being black, and he looks to the group and says, I do not like this place. It smells like shit.
Yeah, let's do the round robin descriptions of everyone as we dive in. So, like, as the party is like approaching this camp before they step into it, the crunching of a warm snow underneath their boots. What does Tempest look like for those who missed your links in chat there?
So yeah, Tempest at this point, he is, his head and face are deep in a sort of hoodie hood, almost a cowl that comes down and covers his face so that people can't see his sort of feline features. He's also wearing sort of a ripped up trench coat, and I'll link it again here once I get finished. Basically, but it's got so many sort of layers flowing over it, you can't really tell that it's how much volume is underneath of it. So he's carrying his lower arm sort of behind his back like this to kind of hide them, and then the tentacles straight down, almost kind of like super big dreads, but they're coming out of his back instead of off of his head. Basically all covered underneath of this, so it just kind of looks like he's just this big bulky guy. Yeah, no, he is just sort of slowly maneuvering in. I think he's been on the road for, truly years, as he's come across from the coast, because this is hell and gone from the Ison Cape where he was found, and having to avoid people, basically been on his own. And I think maybe he's thinking a little bit too much forward to, we're almost there. He knows the sheer, he's heard that once the sheer is the gateway. And so he doesn't notice as much as anyone else. I guess he probably hearing Vaz, no, not Vaz. Jan, hearing Jan say what he says, just sort of says, is this not what we were expecting?
I shrug and spit on the floor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll transition into a more detailed physical description of what Vaz looks like.
Vaz is anyone's guess. Vaz is wearing a very large gas mask with sort of like those almost welder's goggles. You would assume that they probably were welder's goggles, sort of built in to a respirator with like heavy duty rivets connecting the two into like a solid mask that has a couple of hoses coming out and links to a pack on his back that is sort of like close against him, and on top of that is a load of gear, as mentioned before. He's got the old school tank helmets with the ridges through, that sort of look, a heavy duty, what might have been a military uniform at one point, like an army jacket, with tons of sort of pouches for carrying bits and pieces. Everything is either green or brown or brass. It's very steampunk, very much whitewashed, has spent way too much time out in the desert, I think covered in grime, and generally hasn't taken his mask off yet at all, for any reason. He clings to that thing like his life depends on it. So other than that,
cool.
He's just a really big dude.
Cool. All right, sounds good. And last but not least, Ada, I know you gave a slight description, but give us a little bit more in depth. What's Ada look like? What is Ada wearing, packing, carrying, etc.?
So her face is it's kind of like a lavender, opaque, pale, with certain splotches of vibrance and color. Very very gaunt, with eyes that were once kind of a steel gray that had some brightness to it, but now it's kind of faded back. She's bald, and she's wearing a tracksuit that was her original uniform at the academy she was studying at. However, it used to be a one-part tracksuit that she has ripped the middle and kind of rolled over the pants at the waist, and it actually has different areas of varying brownness, which you could assume would be either dirt or blood. And attached to her, she's very minimalist and practical. She just has a small, almost basket weave, but almost like caked in mud. It's very primitive, and it is carrying just a load of javelins and a light toolkit. So it's she travels light, unarmored, with the simple tracksuit, something kind of like a Kill Bill, but derelict.
Derelict.
Cool. Sounds good. Right on. So as you guys approach, Jan is apprehensive, if nothing else, from the smell. Tempest is just eager to be there. He's finally close. Vaz is unreadable through the mask, however it is he might be emoting. And Ada, what is Ada's reaction to finally coming on what she thought might be the closest step to their destination, but seems to have hit a bit of a snag?
The village looks inert. She just kind of glances off in the distance as if it really just doesn't matter or have consequence.
Cool. I'm liking the level of emotional investment from this party across the board. I feel like there may be some more NPC casualties, like there have been in the past in Numenera, but it's all good. All right, so
that was because of too much passion.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe they'll all be spared this time.
It is.
All right, so as our party enters into this camp with their small caravan, Jan's suspicions are confirmed. Some of these tents have been here for months, some of them years. Again, it's the better part of an hour to cross this zigzagging, unorganized camp to finally get to these erected gates at the edge of the sheer. There's constant fighting, bickering. You see folks just in absolute disarray, not well kept, very malnourished, no hygiene really to speak of, fighting for scraps here and there, children running around, being chased by parents, that sort of thing. So definitely not a good scene. And you notice that there's quite a lot of folks who are here, who've been here for longer. So the dirtier, the more gaunt looking of these travelers. It's very common that they have something odd about them, either missing a limb or a strange coloration in their face, some form of mutation. There's a lot of those folks out here. Not that there aren't fairly normal looking humans, but there's definitely a good balance of both for those who've been here for a long time. So you come into this village, this sort of camp, this tent city, and you immediately start seeing signs that say new arrivals this way, leading you to a small little building, this shack that's been erected on the outside of the gates, probably a dozen rooms, 2 or 3 stories high. And there's a little bit of a line outside of this shack. So you can choose to go in immediately, but you can also choose to look around this camp first before heading to whatever form of processing is involved with getting through this gate.
Has Tempest been able to notice that it seems as though the people who have been there longer are the people who are not normal? He, having been in his travels, understanding that mutants are not necessarily are discriminated against flat out, and there's open hostilities towards most of them. Is this something where he's like, this is a checkpoint to make sure he's pure of blood so he can go in?
I mean, I think it's safe to say there's still plenty of inconspicuous-looking humans who look like they've been here for a while. But given how well hidden everyone tries to keep their mutations, you don't really see or interact with different folk too often. This refugee camp has a ton of those sort of visibly different folks as well, so disproportionate to what you'd normally see just like out in your travels. So there's some backing to that suspicion, I would say, but that's all you know.
Do you guys want to look around any, or just head into the checkpoint?
I'm afraid that if they're checking for purity of blood, that
Oh yeah.
I could hold up the party from being able to get in. And I sort of look at the wall, and you were saying it's about 100, 200 feet high, and the cliffs are sheer and straight.
The cliffs are absolutely sheer, and they're as tall as mountains. Yeah.
How about the wall itself? Is it guarded? I'll say, from here. So I mean, Tempest is going, before he goes and presents himself, he's going to want to scout to see if he can climb this wall.
Cool.
That's sort of his thought right now, is that it's better for him to try to sneak in than knowing that if he openly shows who he is, that it could, he could be killed, beaten, exiled.
Cool. All right. So Tempest is not going to go through processing right away. He's going to potentially break off. How about Jan, Vaz, and Ada? What are their thoughts on this little shack that seems to be directing newcomers?
I mean, I think we can take them, lads. I say there is no hope for getting over that hill, so I shrug. If they give us any shit, then we give them what they deserve.
Death isn't necessary at the moment.
I've been through enough checkpoints in my time. What's one more, eh?
Cool. So Jan is on board for at least going through the initial checkpoint.
Yeah, I probably tap the dart thrower on my hip that I wear.
Cool. And Ada's indifferent. She'll go through as well.
Yeah, and just kind of perk up, shrug the shoulders, and move on.
Cool. How about Vaz?
Baz just looks over his shoulder, makes a couple of adjustments to one of the hoses feeding into his mask, and then says, "We're burning daylight. Let's move."
I nod. I like this man.
Factual.
He seems like a soldier.
All right, so Tempest is going to break off and sort of reconvene after they've been processed.
Well, does it seem as though that, I mean, once they go through, is it going to be that they'll be, is it like the airport, that once they go through that I'm not going to have any way to find out how things went?
No, so we'll say as you guys are standing in line, you'll see some folks coming out of this building, and you see that they come out wearing a crest, like some kind of lapel pin. That has strange symbols. There's different symbols, but there's some sort of color coding system. So they come out with a little stack of paper and a pin, and everyone in this camp seems to be wearing some form of colored marker that indicates something about how that interview went. So no, they'll go through and they'll receive this marker, which will in some way indicate, presumably they'll be told what that'll mean, but it's not you're going in one way. You go in to get your marker, some form of cue, and then you go and spend your time in the camp waiting for your turn to actually go through the gate. So you'd have time just from there waiting in line and then getting processed. You'd have a few hours for sure.
Okay, well, I was sort of misunderstanding. I was thinking that this was like I was thinking this was customs. I guess I'll stay with the party, and if I need to figure out how to climb that wall later, I'll do that later.
Tempest,
Sure.
Don't worry, we won't let them take you, brother.
I appreciate that. Let
Cool.
us see what they have in store for us.
Yeah, there's probably like a kind of like burning kind of rage in his eyes when Jan says that. Like he believes that he will not let anything happen to you. There's absolute loyalty.
I like it. All right, so do we have a marching order for going in to this processing? I mean, these would happen concurrently, but just for the purpose of playing them out, because you're going to get broken off individually for about a minute to go through some questions.
Jan would want to go first.
Okay.
Tempest being trepidatious is probably going to go last, and also knowing that if things seem to go down, that he has everyone's back.
Cool.
I think I would leap in front of, I'd let Yan take the point, and then I would step in front of him when the line comes to his turn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Vaz, are you okay sort of being second to last, just ahead of Tempest?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so Jan, are you...
We do have a couple of wild magic surges from subscribers. So Kaki wants Trainty to roll one, and Vaz has one from Frog. Dr. Frog.
Cool.
Ah, okay.
Good
I
luck.
don't know if you want to bring them right now. Up to you.
We will bring them in within the next 2 or 3 minutes. Sounds good. So you can roll them out now, and then I'll have them.
Cool. There you go.
Big numbers.
Yeah, big numbers.
501.
Yeah, as per
Yeah,
usual,
big-
you can donate to give players Nat 1s, Nat 20s, Wild Magic Surges. When we hit follower goals, I think we're just one follow away from 50. We'll have Twists of Fate. So follow if you haven't, retweet if you haven't. All the usual good shit applies to this show.
Cool. Will, can you link me the 10K table? Because I haven't used it in so long.
Absolutely, it's ! Wild Magic.
Sexy.
If you're tracking chat, it's in there. I'll put it in the Zoom.
Cool. All right, so we'll bring those in. We will bring... But to start off, so Ada, you said you're going to try and jump ahead of Jan in line?
Yeah.
Cool. Jan, are you going to...
I kind of I put a hand on her shoulder. What would you say the relationship between Ada and Jan is like, Trainsy?
I think Ada always tends to take charge when it concerns the survival of the party. Like, for the most part, if it's just a regular decision that has less gravity or consequence,
Yeah.
she doesn't act. But if it's something that she believes she could excel at, be it deception or convincing, then she'll kind of circumvent whomever thinks that they're going to, and she'll override that. That's when Ada pops in, and then Avery takes the backseat.
Yeah. Jan probably we'd probably argue on a few things about points because Jan is very kind of dead set in his convictions and stuff. So we probably have argued in the past. But he kind of stops you and then just looks you in your eyes and says, "Good luck." I'll let you go first.
Calculations don't require luck.
Fuck. Love it. Cool. All right, so Ada, you get brought into a processing room. You notice right away that all of the staff, all of the folks who are clearly not living in this camp seem to be wearing sort of bluish tunics of various degrees of weathering and wear, for the most part more worn than not, given that they're out here sort of on the fringe. But the blue tunic seems to indicate or signify some form of authority within this camp. So you get brought into a small room. There's a desk with a lamp on it, not shining at your face, but a sort of small oil lamp and a chair for you to sit in. Behind the desk is a man in one of these blue tunics, roughly middle-aged, quite sun-weathered. He's got fairly tanned skin, but you notice where his tunic sort of opens at the neck. It's definitely not he's not a dark-skinned kind of guy at all. He's definitely paler in his natural complexion, and he's just been tanned from being out here for as long as he has. So he gestures you forward. He's sort of writing on a stack of papers in front of him. There's stacks to his left and his right. He gestures forward without looking up and just says, "Sit."
Sits down.
And again, without making eye contact or looking up, this man just says, "Place of origin."
Neighboring village.
Destination.
Specific destination or town?
Anything to fill out the form. Destination.
Grub Street mission.
He pauses for a minute, sort of doesn't seem to recognize what you've said. He doesn't sort of know of a Grub Street mission, but he writes it down slowly anyway.
Well, so that's
And,
50 followers, guys. Get some Twist of Fate going a little bit here.
Sounds good. Grub Street, is that Urzik or is that in Saida?
Seda.
Fucking foreigners. All right. Reason for entry.
Repair.
So-
Merchant.
Trader. And any trade or skills that you can bring to Seda.
Many.
Yeah, can you be more specific there, love?
Metalwork and tech.
Welcome.
Knowledge of devices.
All right. And have you got a person of contact on the inside? A sponsor, someone fronting for you, putting their name down.
No name. Only a contract.
Contract, don't know with whom?
Nope. Only for work.
Fair enough. So you're starting to get the vibe that this guy could be putting more pressure. He's not as intense as maybe he could be, maybe sensing a bit of apathy in his work. So he finishes scribbling, does some more writing, flips a page, seems to copy out everything again, making multiple copies of this form. And then he walks over to you, sort of looks at you a little bit, squints a little, noticing the discoloration in your skin, but again, doesn't sort of, make a sign of the cross or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he asks you to put out your hand, and he pulls out a small Numeneran device.
I place it in front of him.
Cool. He takes what looks kind of like a stapler with like a syringe on the top. And he says, "You're going to feel a prick. Don't mind." And he goes to take a blood sample.
All right.
That's
Cool.
intense.
He clicks the blood sample and then says, "Wait in the next room, and you'll get your results in a few."
All right. I'll just proceed to the next room, kind of with like a shit-eating grin.
Cool. We'll say that you hear like some like weird whirring and beeping from his like blood sensor as it tracks your fucking alien blood. It's not you, okay? Or like error, like does not compute or something.
Yeah.
Awesome, cool. So you get sort of shepherded to like a waiting room, which is just sort of a long hallway with a number of benches, and there's a bunch of various folks sitting there. They're all sort of coughing and sick and not looking so hot. So we'll jump in next. So Jan, same deal. You get shepherded into the room with this guy. Doesn't look up. He gestures for you to sit down.
I sit
And he
down
asks-
after like a second too long. Hates authority kind of guy.
Cool. Place of origin.
I have a name for my city where I came from. Is there a name I can rattle off of a city that I might have come from?
Yeah, we can just say like whatever city, and then I'll punch that in later once we find one for you.
Sure.
So you are going to give him the actual city.
Yeah, I come from the city. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the city of Ya.
City of Ya.
Destination.
Seda.
Reason for entry.
Business, mostly.
And trade or skills to apply in Seda.
Technician.
What kind of technician?
Machines mostly. I'm good with my hands.
All right. And have you got a contact sponsor on the inside?
Yes. Elise.
Is there an Elise?
It's my dead wife.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to say make a deception roll. You can have an asset because Elise is a real person. And there's 100,000 people in Seda, so there could be an Elise.
Sure.
So difficulty would be a 3, but you can have the asset because you do know Elise, so it brings it down to a 2.
Fuck. That's a natural one.
All right. You're going to need to be more specific for sponsors. Elise, I need the last name, location, trade, what she does, where she lives.
Olik. She's an engineer. Exact location, I don't have the street number.
But she's in Seda?
In Seda. Yeah.
Cool. And is that all like the legit information from your dead wife?
Sure, yeah.
She was an engineer? Okay.
She was an engineer.
Cool.
Maybe I'm from Seda and I've been away for a long time, potentially.
Sure, yeah, if you like.
I've never been back, yeah. So I'm going back to see her, kind of.
Cool. He doesn't know any better, but then that one will come into play because
Sure.
he's not there. But he writes down all those details, writes down that shit. And then he steps forward to take the blood sample. He says, I'm going to need your hand.
I think for a minute and then I pass him my hand.
Cool. He takes a punch of the blood sample, gives you a copy of your papers, and shepherds you onto your way into the next room. Now, Trainsy, Ada is going to start to feel strange. And I'm going to look up 5017 to see how strange. Let us see.
Exactly how strange.
Exactly in what way? What the fuck? Okay. Okay, so Ada, you can feel that blood sample wasn't just taking a sample; it was also putting something in your body. And whatever it put into your body, like, sort of is in competition or is like reacting weirdly with the already split personality with Ada and Avery. Is there a chance, Trainsy, that like the Ada software would have been used for like multiple different people of your species? Like everyone has Ada, or was
everyone does?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is there's this weird like hiccup where Ada's trying to like get rid of this thing that's in Avery's body. And suddenly Avery has a whole suite of memories from one of the other Ada things that were triggered. So you now have a bunch of memories about having tortured a king. And you, like Ada and Avery, are convinced that at one point they tortured a king for something important. And that's just now in your experience, your repertoire. If you want to make a note, I'll say it can give you an asset if you ever need to torture in the future.
And there you have it.
I think I might.
With the gang that tortured her. So
Cool.
Later.
Cool.
Nice.
So either way, you've got an asset on getting tortured. As Vaz enters into the interrogation room with his heavy stepped boots, we'll say that this worker, this constable, does look up and says, Mate, I'm going to need you to take off the wig there.
Vaz does not look anything because he's just a mask. But like he, after a considerable amount of time, sort of like sighs explosively, which comes out through the filters. He sits down and he's actually gonna have to unscrew the hoses on either side. And as he peels back, there's like heavy duty leather from sort of like all this gear a lot of leather on him that you'd imagine is for like working in a foundry and stuff like that to stop like all the sparks and metal from burning it. As he pulls it back, it's not a pretty picture. He has some pretty severe burns. You can make out almost his vocal cords and like parts of his throat. He has no skin. Sort of like it's mostly just the actual muscle underneath along his jawline, and it sort of goes vertically or diagonally across his face. So he's got a little bit of hair up here, and one of his ears is okay, but it's like mostly sort of melted, and it continues down onto his body, which he grimaces. One of his eyes is completely clouded over, and he tries to smile, but he can't really work his face properly. So yeah, it's just like missing half his lips. It's not a pretty sight.
So we'll say, actually, hold on. So we'll say that this processing worker who was like in kind of it's been a slow day. He doesn't, love his posting out here. He just stares, and then he just says, "Fuck me," and like starts to get the forms ready. You can take an intrusion, Josh. So I'm going to step on your toes here. Take 1 XP because I want to work in your wild magic surge, which is fucked, by the way.
Oh no!
8020 reads 1d6 people nearby are duplicated exactly. So I'm going to flavor this a little bit. So Josh, you said that Vaz's strange shard relationship has to do with smoke, right? It's this sort of...
Oh, not already, please. Yes.
So we're going to say that this guy looking at your face, makes you take your mask off. He says, "Fuck me." Suddenly you're just kind of overcome with this, one of your bouts of rage that you try to like stifle down. And you are able to like stifle it down. You sort of like squeeze it away. You're extremely tense. You start sweating like crazy as you're trying to stop all this smoke from coming out. A lot of smoke is going to like leak out of your system, but he just assumes it's from your fucking pipes and hoses and all this other shit. But you're going to see that smoke sort of like build up behind this guy and like take a shape. And then this sort of like smoke, this animated smoke figure that kind of looks like this pale, wispy version of the guy is standing behind him. And he doesn't know that yet.
Oh, shit.
He's getting the papers ready and he's blah, blah, blah. He's writing shit down. So he starts off just as normal. He says, place of origin.
Have we been disarmed walking into this room?
I'll say no, but you know that he's...
Yeah, no. I know this is a high security area.
Yeah,
this is a really shitty situation.
Yeah.
Faz, is there any form of... is there anything akin to a fire extinguisher or any water, anything like that in the room?
You look like the most technologically advanced thing in the room. This is like a wooden building. Yeah.
Oh.
Place of origin. Don't get all day here. Beautiful.
He's gonna grab the guy and pull him. Oh, fuck. I am so sorry, guys. He's gonna grab the guy and pull him over the table, which is probably gonna look like aggression, but he's not gonna. He's trying to get him away from this smoke thing, and really, really cack-handedly fumbling for his mask at the same time after he's got this guy over, and he's going to try and wield his glaive at this smoke-like figure.
Cool. So I'll say because this guy's sitting there practically half asleep writing his forms, no roll required to grab him and like pull him over the table. So you pull him over the table and he's, what the fuck? And Tempest, you hear all this commotion because you're next. You're standing outside.
Yeah, I'm right there.
You know Vaz is in there. What do you do?
Are there guards like on either side of the door, like the tent?
Not. So you're in like a hallway. He's gone into like this office room. There aren't guards on either side of the door, but there's like a couple that have been walking past, and there's one who's turning a corner, doing like a rotation, and he didn't seem to have heard any of the noise.
So they're like in. Are they like right next to me? Or are they like further down the hallway?
Nope, down a hall. They're turning a corner away from you. They didn't see.
So I'm going to do the sort of quick, sort of back to the door and like I fear it's like flap doors, kind of like in the old MASH tents.
Sure, yeah.
And sort of get myself inside of there. You've said we've traveled long enough here, so have I seen Vaz's smoke before?
You probably would have noticed that over time, when Vaz gets angry, he generally gets angry by if, for example, there's any delay on the travel, if we are forced to stay, especially in like well-populated areas, he doesn't want to be there, and he definitely doesn't want to be there for a long time. Also, mostly if there's fire, specifically smoke around, he doesn't want to be anywhere near it. So that's probably what you're seeing. And every time he gets angry, shadows around him do weird things, sort of ripple a little. He's an odd individual. He's very furtive and always on edge.
So I come to Vaz's side, and I just sort of look with him, sort of look at him, and I see your agitated state. I kind of give him a nod and go, "Is this you? Is this yours?"
Can he see the double? Is the double there?
Yeah. So the double's standing there. The double's not moving in any hostile way. It's just a replica of this man made out of smoke. It's just recognizable. But you're now holding this man on the ground, presumably like with a hand.
No. I'm not. No.
Okay.
I'm shielding him.
Okay. So he's just kind of eyes wide, and he's got his hand on his belt, on what looks like just a Numeneran cylinder of some kind, but he hasn't pulled it out of his belt yet.
I look to the man, like I finally get the mask on. I've only got like one hose screwed in. I have the glaive tucked under my arm so I can wield it one-handed, really sort of dodgily. And you will see that the edge of this glaive, the blade, he's pulled like almost looks like a throttle from a bike or something, and it's clicked, and the edge of the blade has just like almost turned molten hot. And he's pointing it directly towards this thing, looks back to the man, says, "Is that you? What is that?"
Oh, shit, you're the one who's smoking, mate. Fuck, it's not yours.
In which case, Vaz is going to try and kill it.
Cool. So make an attack roll against a DC 2.
Yeah, okay. Oh, God. I apologize for this.
Tempest will pull out his yoke, because if he sees Vaz getting ready for combat, he's getting ready for combat.
Cool.
Is just going to grab his Volk, though. He's not going all crazy shit yet.
19! God damn, mini crit.
So mini crit, that's on your heavy weapon, which would be 6 damage. The mini crit adds more damage.
And I've got Weapon Master, so it's an additional damage.
So describe how this thing dies.
I mean, he doesn't faff around. There's nothing flamboyant about it. He literally just steps around the table, the desk that this guy was. He swings with such force that like any paperwork on the table gets blown up in the air just from the passing swipe, and he hits whatever it is and goes straight through it. I don't know what sort of reaction that has.
Yeah, so we'll say you feel your blade like is cutting through something more tangible than smoke, but it's still not nearly as dense as flesh would be. So it does like cut and it sort of splits in half, and then like smoke spouts out of the half, and then it just sort of dissolves onto the ground, and then there's a pile of soot.
I just look back to the man to make sure he's okay. Like I'll
yeah, so he's like slowly standing up, like keeping his eye on the pile of soot with his hand on this this shaft on his belt.
Tempest will probably help. Just at this point, Tempest is trying to smooth things over.
Yeah.
Cool. So this constable sort of looks between the two of you. Obviously, you just saved him. He's not smart enough to have put 2 and 2 together that you created the thing. It just appeared behind him. You saved him from something, but now he's in this kind of weird position. He immediately goes to the door and sort of like goes to actually DM intervention. Tallswell, you can take 1 XP.
Oh, great.
He's gonna like try and go past you and check the door to make sure no other guards are sort of around, because he doesn't want the extra messy paperwork. So he just like puts his hand on your back to like gently push you out of the way, and he like grabs a tentacle and like kind of gives you a weird whatever, and then just shoves you more aggressively as he's like just trying to push you on your back to get further into the room.
Right.
So he makes weird eyes. He got a handful of tube, which he wasn't expecting on your back.
Right.
And then he like quick looks out the door, and then like seals the door shut, and then just sort of starts pacing back and forth. Oh, all right. All right. You two got processed. Process. We need the forms, and he's going to run over to this pile of paper that got knocked over. He's going to start grabbing at things, and he just starts filling out the most generic shit. Like he doesn't actually ask you the questions. He's like, "All right, Bob and Jim came in one after the other. Bob first, then Jim. Bob was coming from A, going to B. Trade, all of them. Fuck, don't care." And he's like processing these forms in the most generic way possible, and then he'll look up and say, "Boys, I'm 2 weeks from retirement. I don't want this hassle. This is going to be a big fucking investigation. Please be Bob." And he hands you the Bob form. And then he looks at Tempest and he says, "Please be Jim."
Of course, sir.
Oh shit! Blood samples. He clicks himself twice and says, "You'll be all right." And he sort of shepherds you on.
Does he go home with like wraps around his hands?
Yeah, we'll say it's a wrap up his hands.
I hand this man a shin for his trouble, because I did not want that at all, and I feel really guilty. So I hand him a shin, and I will go over and, to the best of my ability, sweep up the soot, because he doesn't want to have to do that. And yeah, I'm gonna like sweep it up, and without sort of much to put it in, just put it in, like cram it in a pocket, apologize once, and then leave, and I'm out of there.
Yeah. Tempest just sort of, kind of lowers his head. I mean, he doesn't have a hat, but, kind of maybe even touches his cowl a little bit and just walks slowly out the exit side of the door.
He'll sort of like give a bit of a nod and say, Nothing personal, but I hope I don't pass you, Insider, when I'm down here.
We will stay out of your way.
Very good. And he goes and quickly starts to clean the papers, constantly looking up at the door in case one of the other guards comes in. But yeah, you guys get put on into the waiting room.
Nice.
So the four of you are now sort of in this waiting area. You spend, the better part of 2 hours, 3 hours, government shit, sitting on these uncomfortable benches with really shitty art to look at, and probably horrible music or something, magazines from several years ago, typical horrible bureaucratic space.
Ton of water in the water cooler, but no cups.
exactly. Yeah. And then eventually, an attendant, comes around every 30 minutes to get the one next person. And all they do is they take the papers, and they seem to have a similar device to the sort of blood sampling device. And then they sort of fiddle with some things and then pull out one of these sort of lapel pins for each of the individuals. So let me just check my coding here.
I don't know if at this point, Mitch, you want to bring in, twists of fate here, as we've had
Ooh, that's right.
couple
Absolutely.
of them.
How many twists of fate are we dealing with?
We do have 2, so we can fill this into some kind of amalgamation somehow. But I figured for this one, seeing as we're going for a more kind of slightly more serious style of campaign rather than a kraken appears out of the ground and everyone suddenly is 17 inches long. I figured we could have some input from the GM. So Mitch suggests some rather, and then the players suggest some, and then a couple from the chat as well to make it a bit more kind of streamlined viewer decision, I suppose. A twist of fate.
Cool.
Give
Well,
them
I can.
themes that kind of push the
Yeah.
story.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll give them sort of a prompt, and then we can sort of go from there.
Absolutely.
So the party is about to step out of this bureaucratic interrogation. They've got some form of paperwork for getting into this kingdom, but this camp is filled with individuals who have strange abilities and are extremely tense and under a lot of pressure. So, chat, give me some kind of fairly dramatic distraction that would have been going on outside that would have helped how easily Vaz and Tempest just got processed, because you got this internal commotion. Something outside must have happened to help bomb over. No one's really going to look into why there's a Bob and a Jim, because they have bigger things to worry about, because something happens outside within this camp as the party is stepping outside. So what is it that happens? Total sort of broad ambit. Keep in mind that this is a camp full of super-powered weird mutants who are all being told they can't come in.
Nice, awesome. So under the flatline in chat for a couple of ideas. We won't take the usual 20 as we normally would. We'll take a couple of our favorite ones. Mitch, would you like to throw in one of your own ideas as the GM here?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm cool. I think that prompt is a good enough steer, so we'll see how that works.
All right, cool. Let's just do that then. Let's just take in some ideas and see if that's a good steer for that one.
So while we're waiting for those to come in, so you each get one of these lapels, these buttons that you have to stick on, and the bureaucrat explains to you that it's coded to sort of be associated with your blood. And so if you try and take it off and wear someone else's, it stops illuminating. So it stops glowing whatever color it's supposed to glow. So this is locked to your genetic code. You've got to wear this button. So it prevents people from being able to just borrow someone else's to claim that they should get in earlier. They don't explain what the color coding means at all to you. But Vaz and Tempest, you both get a blue symbol of some kind. Again, it's some hieroglyphic thing. Yours is blue. Ada, you get a purple one. And Jan, you get an orange one.
Ooh, okay. Orange one. I'll make a note of that.
And Ada was purple.
Cool.
Perfect. So you guys have your little markers and you sort of make your way outside. And we'll say that Jan and Ada, you heard some kind of commotion going on with Vaz when it was his turn, but you didn't want to ask about it while you were sitting in the awkward line with 30 other individuals on those benches. So we'll say you make your way to one tent that's recently been, evacuated. Someone no longer lives there and they just sort of left their shit. So not the most attractive domicile for now, but you find a tent for the party to sort of take shelter in. So you guys can reconvene after having been individually processed.
Nice. I say, any trouble or just the usual?
Twist of fate that fell in our favor. Sorry. Vaz?
Vaz like looks a little uncomfortable at the horizon once more and says, "Do we have any idea how long we're gonna be here?"
Not long with any luck. On to Seda City as quickly as possible and onto our business there. I mean, looks like we've done most of the waiting that they expected us to do, so hopefully, hopefully we get there quick.
Right. Well, what do these mean? And he taps his lapel thing. Just wondering if anyone else has a clue.
Yeah, I've got an orange one. Would I have gone through any checks before? Would I be aware of what these things might denote?
Yeah, you can roll me a history check.
Sure.
If you do actually want to be from Seda, then you definitely have an asset on this.
Sure.
The DC is going to be the DC for knowing what we'll say it's a DC 3, and then if you crit, you can actually know the coding system.
Okay. It's a 17, the perfect number.
Cool. So, you know that these are meant to categorize priorities of entrance. So like who is, sort of like a point system for like new immigrants, like who should be let in first based on, education, risk factors, et cetera, all these other things. And you do know that the 17 is close to a crit, that the symbol is actually nothing. It's the color that matters. The symbol is meant to sort of throw them off because it's like they use different combinations of different languages and symbols and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, the point is that you're color coded based on who's the priority to get in first.
These are priority badges. I've been through a point here back when I was in Seda years ago. Basically means if you've got certain colors, you get in first before others. So we've got different colors. Means I don't know which the colors denote, but I'm guessing if you said something happened in there that you guys might have priority, and I'm into the usual.
That's not good enough.
Oh, don't worry. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways that we can get into a city like Seda. Gentlemen like us should not have to go through official customs.
We should ask around, see if anyone knows anything more about these. There's got to be a back way.
Yeah, I'm also thinking, I have a bit of history in Seda. They might be looking out for me. Going through official channels might not be the safest for me. So maybe we see if we've got any contacts in the seedier parts of town.
Well, potentially, if based on the reaction of the person who processed us, I believe Vaz and I might be able to assist from the other side of the wall as well. That could possibly be a great asset. While I hate to split the party, I do believe that potentially having two inside contacts to help you get through could be of some great service.
Yeah, that could be helpful.
Seems the most efficient. I see no issues.
Cool. All right.
Well, that's
I'm
cool.
going to check this straw poll and grab the winner.
Absolutely. It's a good one. I think Richard's won. Congrats, Rich.
Results.
By the way, I want to
Yeah.
thank the followers who just recently followed. Lahoppy, Kalen, Clueless, Courtier, Spudgun, Murphy, Lashreve, Cantankerous, Crow, Asai. I think that's all of them. Thank you. Gentlemen and scholars.
Jan, from your previous experience, is there more? Are they guarding to let people out as well, or is it only controlling folks who are coming in?
Would I know that? It's been a while since I've been here, so it could have changed, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll know that like the system that they're using is different. Last time you were through here, this refugee camp wasn't here. The walls weren't quite so
Yeah.
high, so there's definitely a different vibe going on since all the catastrophe outside. Yeah.
Sure. So I say much have changed since I've been in Seda, but I know that mutant populations are always controlled, so I'd imagine that they'd have control over where anyone goes. I mean, they didn't have the system here when I was back in place, so maybe their bureaucracy knows no bounds.
Well, we'll certainly be able to find out then. Maybe, hopefully, they're only really watching one direction, controlling the inflow. Could certainly help us.
That would be reasonable to assume.
So as you guys are having this conversation in your tent, nightfall is coming on, and amongst all the sort of cacophony of noises around you ever since you came into this camp, whether it's shouting or arguing or fights or disputes over scraps of food and XYZ, crying, people coughing, quite a lot of sickly folk here. You're going to hear one dispute start to ring above the others. There's this sort of back and forth, this screaming, this woman screaming, no, like you can't take him, and calling for someone to help her, and this strong male voice saying like, honey, leave it, honey, we can't. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. And then a sort of chorus of official voices saying, let him go, give him here. And then a shriek. And after the shriek, this sort of seismic, like Inception bois kind of that erupts. And you feel this wave sort of come over your tent. And there's like a minute of silence. And then the commotion starts to rise again, more of a din of people crying and just sort of screaming and wondering what the hell is going on.
I'll kind of sprint over to the situation and...
Yeah, Jan is immediately kind of there. This is...
Yeah, so Spurs.
I say, what's the problem here, officers?
Well, first of all, you don't see officers. Okay. You step out of your tent. You sort of run towards the direction. You see a number of tents have been leveled, and there's probably a 50-foot sort of indent that's just a perfect, like it's like a perfect circle punched into the ground about 3 feet. And it's just flat. There's nothing on it. There's no bones, there's no clothing, there's no remnants. And it's smoking like a bluish smoke. There's just been this punch into the ground, and everything that was there is not there. There's people sort of on the perimeter crying and like looking left and right. One person has just crawled into this like thin crater to like look for someone. They're just like grabbing at dust. And you see someone off to the right whose leg must have been on the wrong side of this line, and it's just it's just gone. They're sort of bleeding profusely. Someone's there trying to tie a tourniquet, but it's just like there was no tearing, there was no cutting. There was a perfectly clean line where their leg stops about halfway up the thigh.
Can I survey the crowd to see if anybody has a blue pin?
Sure, yeah. Give me a perception task. Difficulty 2 as the base.
And the guy whose leg has been trapped, is it a man, woman, child?
It's a man, probably in his mid-20s. He's like on the verge of passing out. He's like trying not to look at it because there's now 3 people like trying to help tie it off.
Vaz is gonna go over and help.
I got a 4, but I'm trained in perception, so it's a DC 3, I think.
Yep, so DC 3 would still be, you need a 9 because you times 3 on the...
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, you said it was a DC 2, the perception?
Oh, yeah, right, so DC 2, so then,
so
it becomes a 1. Yeah. So you succeed, and in succeeding, you see nobody else with a blue pin. So was it Vaz or Jan who said they were going to help the guy with the leg?
Vaz worked around some heavy machinery, wasn't necessarily on the factory floor, like doing most of the work. He was more of a hitty kind of guy, but he's seen what happens when high pressurized machinery just goes through. There's no tear, there's nothing, it's gone. And he's sort of seen enough to know that the first things first is to like tie it off and do what you can and cauterize it. So Vaz is going to walk over and he's going to go up to one of the guys, he's going to push aside whoever is trying to do this and take charge of the situation and get right in some guy's face and tell this guy, whoever he is, I don't care who he thinks he was, he is now the guy who holds this guy down. And Vaz is going to collapse the handle of his glaive and then heat the edge, and he's gonna cook some flesh to try and save this guy's life. I need to make a roll, maybe an intimidation to get this guy, or
I mean, like you're like a tall, like imposing. You've got all these fucking tubes and pipes. The guy who's trying to help, who you end up shoving, just witnessed something horrific that he hasn't been able to describe yet. So you don't need to roll to intimidate this guy. He will do what you're told, do what you've told him. So he jumps on top of the torso of this man with the injured leg, and you can cauterize away.
Do I need to? What do I need to do to cauterize, or is it just?
Yeah, roll some like a medicine or first aid type check to see how successful it'll be.
Intelligence based, I presume. Intelligence
based, so you can spend some int points if you want. DC 4 to actually save this guy's life.
He's a kind of a people person. He's not heartless.
Actually, I'll say it's a DC 3 because it's a perfectly flat cut. So you're not worrying about like jagged edges with like arteries further up that are whatever. Yeah.
Okay. With this guy on, sort of like holding him down. I'm trying to think. Has his leg already been tied off?
Yep. Yeah. There's like 2 or 3 like shirts and like a towel. Like people are just tying multiple. Yeah.
Okay. I've already got one guy assisting me. I don't have any other. Still, in which case I'm gonna spend some from my intellect pool, which is not great. I've only got a 7.
Cool. So I'll quick explain this to chat. So in Numenera, your core abilities, instead of them being static numbers like in D&D, you've got a stat pool. And when you take damage, it comes out of those pools. But you can also choose to spend points out of those pools to decrease the difficulty of tasks. So it's this cool resource management thing where the party gets to prioritize important roles, but it's sort of the equivalent of taking damage when they're choosing to spend points. It's called using effort to reduce DCs. So Josh is spending some int points. He's got a very small int pool, but he's going to burn some int points to try and reduce this DC to save this guy.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind is that works as your health. So the second one of those pools drops down, everything becomes harder. If all 3 of them go down, you're dead. And there's not like D&D when you get like someone can lay on hands. You are dead. You died. So it's harder to die, but once you die, it's game over. So yeah, I'm gonna spend some int. So I don't have an edge in intellect, which is sort of like a training which reduces all your spending. So I'm gonna just spend. Is it 2 or 3? The first.
It'll cost 3.
3. Cool. So I'm down to 4 intelligence for now until I rest up, and I will.
So that brings the DC down to a 2.
Try and save this guy's life. I love Numenera. Such a 13.
Nice.
Sweet.
Cool. All right. Describe successfully cauterizing. He is going to pass out though.
Yeah. Good. It'd be much crueler if he didn't. So cool. I will block. I will do what I can to sort of like loom over what I'm doing so people don't have to witness it. But the smell. There's no
smell it anyway.
That smell. So he takes a glaive, the other side of the blade, the side that isn't superheated, in both hands, and like a hot skillet just presses it against. There's like that horrible sizzling smell, and he holds it on for as long as he dares, and then pulls it away, and there's just this horrible, grisly sort of blackened shard stump. At which point he immediately like lets the glaive start to cool down and falls back pretty exhausted just from sort of like the sudden shock and going from like very chillax to, oh crap, I need to jump into action and do something. And is now just, I guess he's sort of sat without even thinking about it, with his legs overhanging the edge of this crater, just staring. What is this?
Cool. All right, so Jan, Tempest, and Ada, what are your reactions? I know Ada, you're sort of scouring the crowd for these blue markers, but feel free to act otherwise. And then Jan and Tempest, what do you guys do? This crater?
I'm looking out for anyone that might like security, basically, and I'm keeping out an eye for anyone that takes too much attention in this situation, because I figure like if they feel like there's like weird abilities going on and this crater is clearly in Jan's mind something unnatural, then he's keeping an eye out for them, and if any come close, he's going to try and stall them somehow.
Cool. So you'll see there's probably a dozen or so of these blue tunicked officials that are starting to try and disperse crowds. There's two close to you-ish, within 20 feet, I would say, one to either side. They've both looked over at this guy with the leg. They saw that Vaz was helping. They recognize that cauterizing is a thing, so they're not coming to help, but they're also not trying to get you guys rushed out of there because, you know, you're sort of helping this wounded.
Okay.
But otherwise, they're just trying to disperse crowds at this point.
Okay, good. I'll keep an eye on him in case they do anything, and I probably have my my dart thrower underneath my trench coat ready to kind of fire it.
Cool. And Tempest and Ada.
I'm probably looking at this cylinder. I mean, is it? Is it still? Is there still something mechanical there after?
No, like it looks like a giant cylinder just punched into the ground once, but there's no cylinder there. There's just the imprint on the ground.
Okay.
But within that imprint, there's this sort of blue smoke coming up, and there's no trace of what was crushed. There's no trace of tents. There's no trace of bodies.
It just vaporized, gone. How deep down does it go?
Only like a couple of feet deep, but probably, I think I said 40 feet across, 20 or 40 feet across. So.
By the way, Bombard wants to use his sub-wild magic surge on Tempest.
Ooh.
Boom. Tempest, we'll say you step 1 foot in to just examine.
Okay.
And, roll me that surge.
Oh, Nikes.
So shnikes. Let's see.
Oh, high number. Damn
Oh, nice and high. Keeping him nice and high. 8127 is Tempest's roll on our D10,000 Wild Magic Surge. Mind you guys, hit that follow button if you haven't already. When we hit 60 follows, we'll have another Twist of Fate. And of course, we get new subscribers, new patrons. And if you haven't retweeted this tweet yet, go ahead and do so. And we'll get some more shenanigans going.
Cool. While I'm looking this up, is there anything else Ada would want to do to assess the scene?
I'm gonna continue to look through the audience, see if any of the guards have any insignia that would like designate a role or something, and see if there's like an official that has like a level of importance,
like a hierarchy.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll say that you seem to process that the guy who's in charge of the immediate sort of, risk management, crisis response, the one who's barking the orders, has a much lighter shade of blue, and you sort of spend a minute just like calculating, and you see that the darker shade of blue seems to indicate a lower rank, and that's like the color of their tunics, and then there's a click that, the two insignia that no one else has are blue. So maybe there's a connection between blue being official and getting a blue insignia for Tempest and Vaz.
I'll go up to him then.
Cool.
Hello.
Sorry, love, don't got time for this. And he starts barking orders left and right to get folks over there, clear the area, bring in some more support, etc. So
I can aid you in this endeavor. Allow me to help.
Yeah, right. If you want to aid, you can aid with, stepping back, just like everyone else. It's under control. We got everything down here. It's fine. We're gonna have to. You're still just standing there.
Yeah, just deadpan at his face.
Have you got a problem, miss?
I
Because
require assistance.
yeah, well, we got a lot of people who require assistance right now. So unless you're gonna get out of the way, I'm gonna need you to come with me.
Just kind of stand there.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, miss. See that big hole right there? It's got some bluish purple coming out of it. I look at you, your skin's got some blue and some purple. So unless you don't want me to start asking questions you're not gonna like, I figure you should probably bugger off, all right?
I can help you with this whole situation.
So we'll say Jan, because you're assessing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Ada's about to get arrested, so.
Yeah, I step in, and I say, "Oh my God! Sorry, officer. My friend here, a cousin of mine, has not well in the head. You understand? Ill, very ill.
Yeah, she doesn't look too well either.
No, she has a terrible disease. Please do not make contact with her. Please do stand away. Luckily, I have the jab for it, but I'm assuming you don't have the aquahistamine jab, do you?
roll me some bullshit.
Knowledge of bullshit.
Flat out.
I'll say it'll be a DC 3 as the base, but you've definitely got an asset, given that there's like chaos right now, as like there's still people screaming, there's guards running around everywhere. So he's definitely not focusing a lot on what you're saying.
Sure.
And you're offering him an out. Yeah.
It's 13.
As he's talking, I'm gonna cut my hand and like cough into my hand, and then I continue coughing until like the blood from my hand splatters on him. And say, I am ill.
Okay, well, I'll say that would have given another asset onto this, but Will, you've knocked it out of the park anyway. So this guy just, oh fuck, and he's like rubbing at his chest. Get her out of here! And he like shoves.
Immediately, officer, and I kind of like I grab Ada like by the, like you grab someone by the ear, like a little kid, and I say, "What the hell were you thinking, Ada?"
He has a badge. I was going to process him.
What does that mean? You don't process the guards. Ada, we stay away from them. They are the ones that we are fighting against. Why do you think we're fighting this war?
Is it a war?
I let go of your ear. Okay, I toss you aside. Let's get the hell out of here. Vaz, are you done?
Muted.
Sorry, yeah, muted. Vaz is just completely like lost his damn mind. He's just sat there in a fugue state, but he pulls himself up groggily, looks to, has anyone come and claimed this one-legged man?
Having
no.
claimed him.
Nope.
It was like $5.
I'll say the guy who you sort of like procured into holding him down seems to just be like waiting with him to like make sure he's okay. So like he like checked to make sure he was breathing and is just sort of like sitting there also in shock. But he seems to know him, or is at least going to wait around.
I looked to this guy and I said, Zeke, got family or what happened?
Muted.
It's my brother.
Sorry, I like, he puts a hand on this guy's shoulder and says, is there a hospital somewhere we can get him?
No, not here.
Medicine, anything.
He's like trying to process these words,
Yeah,
like remember
no,
what
just
he's like
Listen
struggling.
to the sounds of my voice. Medicine, hospital, nothing else. Is there a hospital? Is there any medicine? That's all you need to think about.
Medicine.
Yes, we can't stay much longer.
Viren. Viren. And he like goes to like pick up his brother, and he just keeps saying his name.
Who's Viren?
Viren. Medicine. Viren.
Might be a place.
I turn, I look to everyone else, and I'm just like, follow. And I pick this guy up, and I'm gonna carry his brother because he probably isn't the biggest of guys, and I'm a little bit bigger.
Cool.
And yeah.
Cool. So we'll go back to Tempest. So Tempest, while Jan was saving Ada from certain arrest, you stepped into this crater, and you immediately felt that sort of weird smokiness. You know that this is related to something that relates to whenever your powers get triggered. So I won't go into any more detail because I know you want it to be a bit of a reveal and you haven't necessarily shown that yet. But there's something more to Tempest than just having tentacles. And you feel like this tingle in your tentacles. Seen that, hentai? You feel the tingle in your tentacles that somehow what happened here is related to your powers in some way, and your tentacles go completely numb. So the Wild Magic Surge read like a sphere area nearby is covered in ice. So I'm going to say your tentacles, because it fits really well with sort of what just happened here, your tentacles go numb, and they're completely like frozen. They're inert, and you're not sure why. You've never felt this way before.
Okay. I mean, Tempest keeps it to himself. I mean, and just turns and with probably an odd expression, if anyone could see underneath the shadow of his cowl, and just kind of almost distractedly in his there, but in his own mind, almost in the shock state that everyone else is, starts heading, following them. Does he? We'll leave it at that.
Well, we'll say so. You've traveled in the wilds for a number of years, so this is the same feeling of like that one time when you were in a really cold Arctic climate, and like you lost all feeling in one leg, and it took like hours for it to come back, and like a couple of days before you felt really good about that leg again, because it just got way too cold for too long. So it's the same sort of feeling, but just sort of focused on your mutation.
Okay, cool.
So the party otherwise is following Vaz and this wounded man and his brother to some mysterious Viren. Is that the plan?
That's my idea.
I mean, Jan is super worried about this, I think. But I also wanted to read out a donation from the Frog. Donates £5 and says the party encounters a pack of blink dogs. There's a link for you as well if you want one, Mitch. By the way, you're all awesome people, including the people in chat. Thanks so much, Frog. You're awesome too, buddy. Thank you very much. Sassy, create a monster that the DM can decide the power level of. So you can decide if it's hard, easy, whatever. I'll shoot the link to the Blink Dogs. You don't have to bring them in immediately, but whenever you want to.
Cool.
So yeah, Jan is super worried about this. I imagine, are we drawing some weird looks from people?
I mean, you sort of came to help this man, is sort of what people are getting the vibe from.
Okay.
But again, like most people are just trying to get away. At this point, there's probably very few people within 30 feet of this crater. It's mostly these guards. None of them have stepped into it. They're all just kind of looking around. And now you're starting to get looks from the guards that like you've lingered too long. You helped the guy, okay, but...
Sure. So I say, we need to get out of here quick, find him this Viren and get out. They're drawing too much attention and he's not one of us.
I agree.
He's just one of them, Vaz.
Vaz is gone. That's it. He's going with this guy.
Shit.
Why
So-
do we take on an additional burden?
I do not know, Ada. I wish I knew.
Savage.
I wish I knew why Vaz wanted to get us killed every time.
If we are going to need help, the best way is to help one of their own.
I shake my head. Not like this. Not like this. And I am the not like this face, yeah. And I'm pretty angry, and I turn and follow Vaz.
Cool. I presume Ada is in tow, if not still attached by the ear, at least.
Oh yeah, I think I've let him go here.
I shrug up the backpack, just kind of that same smile. It's just like
This is a
almost
bad decision.
Well, I mean,
He's like,
not a care in the world, but obviously with like not specific intent, but just kind of like, all right, on to the next thing.
Cool. All right, so you guys are led by this man, this brother, who's just frantically Viren, and he seems to be trying to process, turning this way and that way to remember how to get to this Viren's tent. You can maybe assume that he's not been here for too long, given that he's not quite as gaunt as some of the other folks who live in this camp. And he also makes a couple wrong turns. Like you're kind of going for a while and you double back, and at one point each of you is kind of like, oh no, like you even realized you've turned wrong based on how he's been trying to tack towards a certain direction. So you're a little impatient, but again, he's under a lot of pressure. Finally, he makes it to this tent right as it's sort of nightfall, right as it's dark. The sun's finally gone down on the other side of this ring of mountains. And you come to a really low-lying but quite large tent. So extends, it's almost like several tents and canopies sort of attached to each other. Probably the better part of 50 to 60 sort of square feet combined among these little chambers that have been made under this sort of shack structure. And you also notice immediately strange smells coming from this tent. Weird plumes of smoke coming from various little ventilation holes, and a ton of funky looking bone talisman-esque shits hanging from each of the entrances to this tent. And this man sort of just, Viren, Mr. Viren, and he calls into this tent. And you hear this sort of grumbling, something starts to emerge. And it is 100% an alligator that's on its hind legs. So there's this reptilian, very squat, probably only about 4.5 feet tall, quite a round sort of belly. Its back legs have developed to more walk on its hind legs, and its front limbs are definitely much more sort of prehensile arms like you'd have on a humanoid. But otherwise, it's got an alligator face, wearing a ragged sort of cloth as a cloak. And covered in similar sort of accoutrement, like weird bone necklaces and piercings and shit like that. And this Viren sort of lumbers out of its tent and just looks at this strange crew and just says,
"Hello, friend." I immediately feel more at home because he's like a mutant. Hello, friend. This man needs help. Can we leave him with you? Heal.
He'll walk up to this wounded leg and sniff the stump really aggressively, and even lick the edge of it at one point, and taste around to see how it is, and then he'll look around your shoulders to see, and then he'll look up at you, yawn, and say, "Blue shirts."
None.
I guess they did not do this to him. No. We are brothers. And I look at him as if that means something. Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
Got it.
Wild magic surge.
Shockwave.
Little bit of poo came out.
I go over to the deer and we also accept trade if you are hungry.
He's gonna, I don't know how I would describe this. He's gonna whistle, or what the equivalent of whistling would be for a fucking alligator. I have no idea. Just assume that it's a thing, like a weird croaking noise, some weird fucking noise. He's gonna make this noise, and then you're gonna hear a bunch of quadrupeds coming around these tents, and a bunch of these dogs are going to appear quite aggressive, snarling, and they make kind of a perimeter around behind you to sort of prevent you from getting away from Viren until he's done talking. What trade?
You found him tasty? We require shins at our next destination.
And he'll gesture with his claw to enter into his tent, as his dogs are not really giving you an option otherwise, unless you want to fight the dogs.
No.
I mean, I want to fight the dogs, but not in character.
Put up the backpack.
Yeah.
The brother is immediately wanting to get in and get his wounded.
Yeah. I carried the guy in.
I sort of do. Tempest does his sort of rear guard thing, looks around, looks for blue cloaks, and sort of sizes up the dogs of what if we've got to fight our way out, what we're up against.
Yeah, there's 6 of these dogs. They're definitely bigger and more muscular than most dogs that you've seen, and there's a weird discoloration in their eyes that alternates back and forth between their eyes. You've never seen dogs like this.
Yeah. So I'm similarly looking at these dogs, and I turn back to the Viren, and I say, "So what do you say? Will you help us, brother?"
In.
I step inside.
he snarls like over your shoulder and just says "Blue," and then he makes his way into his tent.
Yeah, I step inside. Probably the first one to like launch myself in.
Cool. Everybody else going to follow suit? I know Tempest, you're taking rear guard.
Yep.
Cool. So you guys enter into this tent, like you're the larger of you, I guess Tempest and Vaz are probably almost on all fours. Like that's how small and like canted the ceilings are and stuff. And you enter in and it's all these little narrow tunnels. It smells horrible in here, but like deliberately, it's not just like the smell of the camp. There's weird like spices and herbs hanging in the worst combinations. And you see what you're pretty sure are like animal intestines at one point, like laced with an herb for no reason at all that you can discern. So you're sort of crawling through all this shit until you get to what seems like some kind of central room with a fire pit in the middle, and you can at least sit comfortably in this room. And so he like gestures Vaz to put the body of the unconscious brother on like a pile of straw that he's got on the one side.
I turn to the gator guy. Wait, hold on. So he's an alligator and he's sort of some sort of medic. Does that make him Gatorade? Oh, come on. It's the best thing in the world.
You lose that XP I gave you, buddy.
But I get to make the pun, so it's okay.
Yeah, shitty puns all cost 1 XP in my games, by the way. It's a standard roll.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, he looks down to the guy, and then looks to the doc, whoever this guy is, and says there was some sort of business. He has no way of describing any of the stuff that's going on around him or them or anyone at any given time, so he's just like, something happened, some weird, whatever you call it. Anyway, there's a big ass fucking crater out there now, and this guy's missing his leg, and I do mean missing. He's not anywhere lying around or anything. Anyone in that blast is gone. Can you help him?
While Viren is like prepping, he's got this like shitty clay bowl and he's mixing some dry herbs. Then he adds some water to it and spits in it and whatever. He's making some kind of salve. He's just sort of nodding to what you're saying. And then he looks at you and you lock eyes with him. And you get the feeling that he's actually locking eyes with you, even though you're wearing your mask, which is kind of unsettling. Usually the mask dissuades that kind of shit. He stares you right in the eyes and just says, "Many awoken here." And then he keeps making his salve and applying it onto this leg. Doesn't say how successful it's going to be, but he does seem to be doing something to this leg.
Okay. In which case I would just sort of realize that I've dragged everyone here and look around awkwardly and say, are there a lot of people in this camp? I mean, he taps to the lapel and he says, "Look, what does this mean? Does he have a thing on his?"
He does not have a lapel.
Have I explained that to Vaz yet? Because I feel like I explained it to Ada.
No, you did explain it while I was there, but I'm like, he's not really. Vaz is not the smartest of guys, but what he's trying to ask is, like, what does the color signify? Like, how does it all? Because he figures someone who's been here a while might know specifically who goes through first.
Cool. While Viren is like applying his salves and shit, he'll like tap with like the curved, gentle side of one of his claws. He'll tap at your lapel and say, "Brew, one of them, but not one of them." And he'll keep working away.
Okay, all right. So, what does orange mean? And is it purple that trains his gospel?
Purple, yeah.
Yeah. So I say, what's orange and purple?
Both watched, but orange lower on the totem.
So less of a risk or less likely to go through? Vaz growls, but it's muffled.
Have we heard the term awoken before?
Nope.
I have no idea what to even call the shit that happens around me. So, no, I haven't got a clue.
Friend, what are the Awoken that you speak of?
The sky people. Not like Viren, no. No, Viren from this earth.
I don't know if I know whether Aiden is extraterrestrial or not. Do I know? Do we know that you're extraterrestrial or no?
I mean, it's pretty, like, I'm really obvious. Like, I'm
Well,
either,
This could be a mutant. Yeah.
I mean, I could be. I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, we're all weird looking. So,
Ada, if you were ever asked about it with the party that like you've got a decent amount of trust built with, like would you be open about it?
oh, absolutely. Just like full kind of full story out there. Like,
Cool.
All the raw detail, the torture.
I think
previous
I
life.
bring Ada over and go, sky people like her.
He stops healing the man entirely because he's now super intrigued by Ada and just leaves his shit half finished. Looks over to Ada and just starts like prodding and smelling and grabs a handful of dust and like throws it up at you and notices something about how the dust falls and says, no, star. You're from a star, not like the sky people.
Are sky people a threat?
He's going to look over to Jan. Not all of them.
I remain guarded when he looks at me. Kind of pretty like... Jan tries to look as kind of unreadable as possible, as if it meant nothing to him.
And then, so Viren will sort of like go to touch your face, but then realize there's 5 of you. His dogs are outside, Ada, so he's super into you, Ada, but otherwise he's going to turn.
Yeah, Jan is very twitchy. When he moves towards Ada at any point, like when there's any kind of contact, Jan is pretty kind of nervous about that.
Cool.
Listen, let's just heal this guy and get out of here. He's not our problem. He's one of them.
I take notice to Viren's like interest, and I move up like towards what I believe his ears are, and I'm like, I'll speak. This, like in a hushed tone that nobody else can hear. This one-legged man is a burden. If you would like him for the dogs, in trade for assurance of passage to Seda or assets, let me know.
He'll step back for a second and say, Seda. You go to Seda.
Yes.
He taps on your purple lapel and he taps on the orange lapel. Not going to Seda.
I turn to Jan, who sort of like, has been making the comments of they're not our problem, and I tap like his lapel and just say, we are one of them right now. All of us. We're all in the same boat.
I will never be one of them.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Listen, they don't give a shit what you think. That is all that matters. The colour there. That's all they care about. They don't even see people here. I know how it works. This is all controlling the populace. So everyone inside lives the high life, and everyone out here probably dies out here. Some of these people, regardless of what's on there, will never get in. You got to understand. In there, and he gestures like where this giant wall is, he says, in there, they don't have enough supplies. If they did, they'd have to meet down how they live high and fancy and all that shit, and they ain't gonna give that up. They've got civilization out there, and they ain't gonna give it to the people in here, not the freaks. Like, and he like stops, realizing that that was probably the worst term he could use. But so he doesn't finish pointing that at anyone, but he just says, "People like them, people like us." 90% of the people here, they ain't welcome. This is just a stalling tactic. And then every now and again, someone will get a blue pin for probably undeserved reasons, and they get hauled inside.
But the whole reason we are here is this Grub Street mission is the place for us freaks.
Vaz, if you insist upon helping the one-legged man, I'll take the pin and gain us entrance from inside.
Viren knows colors. Viren plays with colors, and he's like walking a circle around his tent, like pawing at all of his weird shit that's hanging. Viren can make blue for you, and he points to the orange and the purple lapel.
First thing that goes through Vaz's mind is the doctor knows colors. Well, that's a start. But like grasping what he's saying, he looks to everyone else and says, kind of full of shame, but not being able to show it through the mask, will walk over to Yar and say, walk over to Yan, sorry, and say, the only way we're getting in is if we know someone who's been here a while and knows this place, knows the ways in. We need this guy on side, so stop giving it the old, I'm not one of them and I'll never be one of them.
Listen, Vaz, I have spent half my life within Seda City. I am this man. I was this man, and I point at him.
You have orange. It doesn't seem to be as important anymore.
I shrug my shoulders. I have no qualms in killing this man.
Viren is glad to hear this star princess. She's right. I need blood, lots of blood, to make blue. He should have enough left.
We take the badge. Give him the
begin to-
man.
I walk out, like I begin to pretend like I'm walking out, but in turn I'm actually taking one of my javelins and like taking off like the spearhead, and then I'll come around the brother first and just slit his throat, and then just like shove him face first into the ground, and then I'll take the one-legged man and do the same.
I'm going to stop you from getting to the one-legged man, but Vaz absolutely does not see that coming.
This seems like a good time for Ada to roll a Wild Magic Surge from Yeti Champ, who donated £5. Thank you, my friend.
All of your weapons become the consistency of Jello.
Actually, what I'll
Just
say,
mere Jello.
Josh, is take an XP intervention. You're not going to be able to get to either in time. So Ada is going to be able to kill both. But in killing the one-legged man, there's a strange pulse as whatever supernatural, essence he was carrying is sort of released from him.
I guess like Vaz turns just to hear the first guy hit the floor, and just unfortunately turns in the wrong direction, and you just sort of mirror him from behind, and by the time he turns around,
Yan nods once.
The blood like sprays like my just very lack of care on my face as I just push their head into the ground.
Tempest, what's your reaction to this murder?
Probably that. Yeah, Tempest actually probably is a little bit in shock because I was really thinking all about the things that he was saying about the sky folks, and Tempest would have been as well, of not like the sky folks. So I think he was taken off guard as well, but certainly, I was actually thinking of my oddity of, well, maybe I can trade him an oddity for doing type stuff. So I mean, Tempest was very much along the let's do a trade route, and then suddenly this unfolded in front of them.
By the way, it's Belk wants to use his Wild Magic Surge for the month on Tempest.
And apparently, through indecision, get effed too.
Cool. So
That's it.
we'll roll in Trainsy's Wild Magic Surge. So Trainsy, as Ada slits the throat of the unconscious one-legged man, there's this sort of strange, almost invisible sort of blue stream that comes out of his throat briefly. And Vaz, you said you respond, your powers sort of get triggered almost uncontrollably when you're angry, and particularly in the presence of flames, right?
Yes.
So you're gonna feel, this is there's tons of smoke in this tent. There's all these little candles and shit. It's there's a lot of smoke in here. This is not your comfort zone, and your instinctive reaction when you see Ada doing this, you start to, oh shit, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. But the essence that like releases from this guy's throat when he dies suddenly changes all the flames within a pretty big radius. So definitely this whole tent, maybe further. All the flames start to glow a gentle blue, and that just is able to sort of trigger you out of that slippery slope, and just saves you from sort of losing control. So the surge affected the flames nearby, and that just kept you under control.
Awesome. Also thank the Kaustin, Drawing Flame, Insano X for following. Gentlemen and scholars.
Okay,
Did
and
I
then
do something,
Fort
Mitch?
Tempest.
Did I do anything? Because I feel like I am getting screwed, and I feel like it's something I've done. I'm sorry. I love you.
No, I mean, I'm also wondering whether it's my campaign plots that entice the death of NPCs at this point. I don't know. It's impossible. Episode 1, kill you.
No, episode 1, I was like, save as many people as I can, and
Okay, cool. So
It's us and them, Mitch, alright? It's a war.
I know. All right, so Tempest, you're sort of processing this. You're trying to sort of like think through, what's just happened. And this blue sort of smoke that sort of comes out, these blue candles that are now glowing, they sort of they thaw your numbed tentacles. But in, again, this sort of strange kind of way, it triggers something else, and your tentacles all sort of like unfurl quickly and sort of reveal themselves for a moment before you can get them back in check under your cloak. And Viren immediately responds to seeing that type of tentacle, and like leaps backwards, leaps down to all fours, and is snarling just bestially at you when he saw that you had tentacles. He says, "What are you?" And he's backed in a corner, and he is not happy.
I look him straight in the eye and say, I don't know.
Vaz is gonna move straight to Tempest's side. And
Give me a persuasion, Tempest. Difficulty 3 as the base.
Okay, so this is when we need to start playing the resource game, right?
Yep. So if you have training in persuasion,
I-
that would reduce it.
I don't, but can I spend intellect?
So you'll be able to spend intellect. I'll also give you 1 asset because you actually don't know. So you're not lying, like it's the
Yeah.
truth. But very few people just don't know at all. So it's whether you can convince him that you really don't know. So you can have an asset, which reduces the DC to 2
And so that drops my intellect by 3, correct?
So the
Or
asset
gets
drops
me
it
to
for
2.
free. And then you can reduce it to a 1 by spending 3 int points to like really convey that you have no fucking idea what you are. And whatever
Okay.
relationship he thinks is there is not with you.
Jay,
yeah.
do you have any edge in intellect?
No, I only have edge and might and speed.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I'll spend it just because Tempest really wants to know if he might know something, and that, especially what he felt back at the cylinder space, seeing that same energy come out and do this blue thing and make me lose control, Tempest needs to know. Tempest needs to know bad. This is
So there's like
5 years.
So it's not just conveying that you don't know, but like you're trying to punch like a desperation behind it, that like you're so upset that you don't know, you wish you knew. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Good thing I spent.
All right, perfect.
Nice.
So Viren's it's like takes him a minute to calm down, and he slowly props himself up back to his hindquarters.
And so, can you help me in any way? Do you know what this is? What I am?
Also wearing a skagger for 6 months. Thank you, my friend. Happy birthday on the 4th.
I love that gift, by the way, Will.
Thank you, Skag.
Cool. So Viren will sort of like, again, super uncomfortable that you're in his hut now that you've revealed that you have some form of tentacle that he, was triggered by. And he'll say, the colors first, and then maybe we'll talk. And he goes and starts fetching different herbs and things. And we'll say there's a shamanistic sort of montage where he's burning this and peeling that and saying weird things and going in circles and etching into the ground. So he goes through various processes. He seems to make a seat for the two of you that need your insignias changed, need the colors changed. So he seats you down again on like this sort of rough straw patch is the best that he can do. And he gets out really filthy looking tubing, like rubber, sort of like medical tubing. And he goes to like, get an IV sort of thing set up in the two of you. But again, it's with like a reed that he's like sharpened and stuff. It's not sophisticated medicine by any stretch. But he's a seasoned practitioner. So he gets Jan and Ada sat down, and he's basically pumping some of this dead guy's blood into you and flushing it, but he's adding shit to it. So he's got this big drum where he's draining the dead guy's blood, and then he's adding all of his weird spices to it. And then that's pumping somewhat into you, and you can see the shade of your insignia is starting to shift. And after a few hours worth of this sort of trickling, you do end up with blue insignias.
Back alley blood transfusion. Nice. Episode 1.
Yeah.
Yep. Pat him on the snout, like, thank you. And then go over to Vaz and be like, point to the pool of blood and like, colors are colors. And I'll point to my insignia. All that matters is survival.
I grab Ada by the shoulder. Survival.
Az doesn't react in any visible way.
Come. There is much to do.
I believe Tempest needed to know.
I just look expectantly. I've sort of been waiting in the corner, but look sort of expectantly, of whether he's going to give me any type of inspiration. In fact, he probably even sort of takes his cowl down, because he saw how he inspected Ada, and kind of is sitting there like, me next.
Cool. So he'll like walk a couple laps around you, like plodding on his sort of chunky back feet and wagging his tail. He'll sort of prod here and there. He'll do some clouds of dust to see how things react and fall. He'll wave smoke in front of you, behind you, say some incantations. He's very reluctant to go near your tentacles, but he does at one point like gently grab one of them and like see how long it is and like look into the claws that are in it and sort of examine them. And then he sort of checks your snout and your torso. And then he goes into one of the side chambers to look for something and comes back with a fairly sizable, probably like a 13, 14 inch like plate that he can like scratch onto. And he points to your tentacles and he says, They, they're not yours. You're like a son, but not like his father. You're the same but different. And then he'll draw the picture, sort of scratched, fairly decent detail, with one of his claws, of a tall, gaunt humanoid with sort of a slightly elongated head. And instead of arms, where each one arm would be, there are sort of several tentacles that come out. And he sort of finishes this drawing and says, your fathers. And then he points to your tentacle tissue, and he seems to be fixated that like your tentacles are the same tentacles that he's seen otherwise in whatever creature he's just drawn. And then he points up, and then he makes like a circular motion, and he says, they're up there and around. And that's all he's got.
Tempest just says, I don't understand, but I hope to. I thank you for your help.
Some things are not meant to be understood. Just accepted.
Yeah, and so Tempest gets up and follows the party out.
Cool. All right, the dogs are still like in a bit of a semicircle, but two of them will get up and, still growling and snarling, will move their way to the sides for you guys to pass through. Cool. So anything else anyone in the party wanted to do in the evening before it's probably like pushing 11-ish, like almost midnight, as you've been out for quite a while.
I guess now we just wait until they call for the blue.
I believe we take these to the gate.
Yeah, I think what Ada said. Is it like late now, you say?
Yep. Yeah. So there's quite a few torches out for illumination. Lots of folks still awake, or babies crying, people coughing, sneezing, arguments, bickering, that sort of thing.
Shall we go now or in the morning? Do we think there's a schedule to this?
Tonight they'll be looking to get home to their wives and children. In the morning they'll be busy and alert again. I say we go now and take them when they're least aware.
Any thoughts or opposition from the party?
Vaz will just say to, Vaz will just turn around to Jan and say, "We're not looking for a fight with these people. Diplomacy first."
Jan says, I said nothing about a fight, Vaz. Simply that it would be easier to get in at night.
We have not done any fighting yet.
The fight has
Vaz
not yet truly begun.
There
turns
was
to Ada and will just say, "You might not fare so well when someone actually gets the chance to put up a fight." And that's all he has to say on that.
I have something that I believe you land people say. What did the one-legged man say to the alligator?
Come on, Ada, tell us the joke.
Nothing. He's dead.
You can have an XP. That was fucking dope.
He gets an XP. I lose an XP. Your Gatorade.
You didn't actually lose the XP for you.
Okay. I'm putting it back on.
Ada,
what's the worst that could happen would be they say no. We might as well give it a try.
we have our badges, gentlemen. The trick to this is appearing as though we are meant to be here. Now we
take
walk
the
with
rear.
confidence as if we deserve to be in this city. which of course we do. And so Jan
Cool,
kind of
alright,
like
so-
fixes his little blue badge on proudly and turns and goes back.
Cool. So Jan leading the way.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you guys head towards the gates. It is fairly quiet, as you imagined. So there are these big, broad gates that can sort of swing open, but then there's small little portals and gateways, only sort of humanoid size, sort of at various intervals. Along them, there's 6 towers, sort of one on each end, sort of evenly spaced. On the outside of the gates for watching, and sort of a small barracks to the side for the guards that do the night watch. So you come towards one of these smaller portals because the larger gates are closed for the evening. And there seems to be 2 guards working, one more senior than the other. And there are a couple folks sort of standing around asking questions. The guards are pretty eager to say, like, no, we didn't call for these, and like gesturing people away, saying your color, we're not here to process. Did you hear a call for yellows? No, you didn't hear a call for yellows. Get out of here. You guys approach, walking confidently with your blue badges. Jan, you recognize that this is the guard that Ada almost got arrested from. And as you guys approach, he looks right at your badge, because Jan, you're doomed.
That's true.
And he looks back up to you and he says, now, how did you fancy one of those, Mr. Orange?
How many guards are currently around?
There's 2, but you're standing at the base of one of 6 towers evenly spread across the sheer, with another half a dozen in each tower.
Okay, so I look at the guy. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Orange, no. Blue. As you can see here, my friend. Why don't you check your records and see?
My record up here says that was blue. Earlier this afternoon, when your sick friend made a cough on me.
And what if it was?
Well, if it was, then that means you've found a way to circumvent our little coloring system.
Well, that can't be done, as you know.
Then we
I
might have
want to lean over to this guy and just say, you remember earlier when there was that almighty crater in the floor? You remember what that did to that guy's leg? Yeah? This is to the guard.
He's just, like he did see that, yeah.
Yeah. You remember all that smoke that kicked up in the air? The blue smoke?
He's going to smile kind of gently and then put his hand on his little cylinder that's on his waist. And the guard beside him is much more shaken and is a little bit more nervous, but he follows suit and puts his hand on this little baton. And what about it?
I don't know about you, but I saw some things there that didn't exactly agree with me up there. All sorts of people saying all sorts of crazy things. Maybe you were mistaken, misremembering, having seen a traumatic event.
Are you trying to rock an intimidation or deception? Who's
I
trying to
haven't
rock
really decided yet. I'm treading that line.
Because Jan's character, so because Will's descriptor is doomed, I get to intervene and give him an XP. I can intervene without giving you XP, I think is how it goes.
I think it's just that
You can't refuse?
I think it's I can't refuse. I have to look that up.
Okay, so you take an XP. This guy 100% knows that you are not tagged as blue, Jan. And so you're not going to convince him otherwise. He knows that you had orange. He saw that it was orange. So you got to find another way around this.
Cool, in which case I'm going with intimidation then. I'll just say,
Cool.
that blue smoke. You remember what that did to him? That guy who was laying there, all chewed up on the floor.
Who do you think did that?
And Vaz is going to start smoking ever so slightly.
Cool. Give me...
Glaive. And I'm trained because I am a vengeful glaive.
So,
we standing in front of a wall and a closed gate, or just a threshold?
Wall, closed gates. There's like a small little portal doorway that you could all fit through. That's like the doorway for one person abreast to go through. That while you were making your way up, you know is unlocked because people are passing, but that's what these two are guarding, is that door.
So what's the difficulty on this?
Yeah, so the base DC is a 4 to intimidate this guy.
Knocking it down to a 3 with my trained.
Yep.
Okay, how many do we have in our pool? Because I'm tapping into it in our fourth mysterious pool.
Cool. I
That's
think
technically what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think the mystery pool is going to start at 6, which allows you to use it twice, essentially, for reductions, so twice in a day. It doesn't recover the same as the other ones recover, so it only recovers after a full day's rest kind of thing. So when you take a rest as a quick action, you can't put points into the super pool.
Okay, cool. Yeah. For
So-
recovery rooms.
So for those in chat who are familiar with Numenera, or those who are starting to get the hang of it, you've got your 3 stat pools that are based on your attributes, might, speed, and intellect. Because we're playing this as sort of like a superhero flavored Numenera, I've given each of the PCs a 4th stat pool, which is like a neutral stat pool. So they can spend points from this pool to enhance any of the other abilities. So anytime you would spend points for might or intellect or speed, you could choose to spend them from this supernatural pool instead. But doing so has to manifest as visually supernatural to sort of enhance the risk reward business, because nobody really wants to be seen as a super or a mutant or a weirdo among this kingdom, because they're very reclusive and protective. So Josh is activating his supers pool. So he's adding this, he's activating this supernatural sort of smoke powers that he has to rock this intimidation.
While they're doing this, I assume he's making a pretty big display of this, and the two of them are right there. Can Tempest, who's as always towards the rear, be sort of moving around to the side, and since they aren't aware that I have some reach with my tentacles, can I reach out with my black tentacles at night and touch each one of their little cylinders and drain machine?
Fuck yeah, you can, but let's have this happen synchronously. So give me the intimidation first.
Cool. The last thing I'm just going to say is, as we know it's unlocked and we know they're the guards, just say, "You're the one thing in the way, you two, between us and a new life.
Cool.
You really think we'll stop?"
I point my dart thrower from out of my trench coat towards him.
I have glaive in hand. It's starting to heat. Right. Oh god. Do not that one.
Okay, so the DC now is 2.
11. It's good.
Cool. All right, so you successfully sort of spook him. His lower ranked guard companion is sort of way more shaken than he is. He's kind of doesn't know what to do. He's sort of looking left and right. Tempest, I'll say you can drain one of them at a time. So pick which one you want to drain, either the senior or the less senior.
The senior.
The senior guy? Okay.
Yeah.
So just describe or let everyone know what drain machine does.
So basically, what I'm a mutant seeker who siphons energy, and so normally what I'd be doing drain machine to do is to try to restore. I was going to say, does this only work if I'm down in might or speed, or can I actually supercharge my might and speed?
You can't supercharge it, but you can drain when you're at full, but it's just like draining and releasing.
Yeah, so normally I would be using this to drain in order to restore my might or speed, but since I haven't used any might or speed, the big thing that happens is on small electronic devices is that it drains them completely dry. So whatever power they had in them basically turns them into a piece of metal. So what I'm doing is, as Vaz is on one side and Jan is right sort of in the other guy's face, I'm just nonchalantly sort of standing behind them, but at the same time sneaking out one of my tentacles sort of around to be able to reach this machine, and basically just with a touch, I'm able to siphon the power. Now it does take like in a combat thing, it actually would take multiple rounds, but I figure why they're talking and doing this,
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay.
So you drain this machine, and sure enough, Josh, you did succeed. It wasn't an exceptional success, and this guy's fairly used to dealing with fucking weirdos who can do weird shit. So a puff of smoke, a dart gun. He knows he's surrounded by guards. He is a senior captain after all. He's visibly shaken. He succeeded in intimidating, and so he thinks about activating his whatever this device is, and then he chooses not to. And just sort of like pulls his hand away. He has no idea that it's been siphoned. He has no idea that it's not going to work the next time he needs it desperately. But he just takes his hand away and like puts a hand on the shoulder of the other guard, looks up at the others, he looks up at the towers to see if there's other guards around. And he says, I better not see any of you again. Go. And he like gestures you through the door.
On the contrary, my friend, we best not see you again. And I step through.
I push Jan through before he starts a fight. And yeah, I rush inside.
And no, Tempest isn't gonna be a smartass. Tempest just goes through and keeps his mouth shut.
Ada, when you walk through this gate, Ada shuts off for a second, and it's full Avery. I don't know if this has ever happened since like the chip was activated or if it's always been a balance, but something about this barrier isn't just physical. This wall also has some type of serious data inhibitor business going on as well to prevent people from communicating, whatever. That's sort of the best vibe you can get, because Ada basically has to like reboot from scratch. So like Ada just like blinks off and it's full on Avery.
My like shoulders sag and I take a more like less erect kind of posture, and head draws to the forehead. Just, and I look up because Avery's completely there with her in kind of vision. It's just not so much vision.
So Avery's able to process like what's going on and like see and keep up in real time with what Ada is doing.
Yeah, she's like the suppressed voice in the back of the mind, but she's like keeping up and has like they share the same memory. It's just like if there was ever, Avery does come out when there are more emotional decisions to make.
Okay.
But when it comes to survival, navigation, and everything else, like it's very machine, and Ada takes the wheel.
Cool. So I assume over like the months traveling, the rest of the party, Yan, Vaz, and Tempest would have like encountered Avery in some small forms here or there. But yeah, you're fully Avery, and as Avery, like you've never experienced this level of quiet from Ada since Ada's been turned on. So this is strange. This is weird. You don't know how long it's going to take, etc. So.
But there's another like 5 checkpoints to get through, right?
No, this is just like as you're walking through the wall. So we'll say you walk through this fairly thick wall, and when you pop out on the other side, Ada is sort of absent or silent.
Okay, I say, everything okay, Ada?
Where are we?
Avery, we're in Seda. We've made it.
I know that, but there's something different about this place.
It's not safe, Avery. We need to find our
Keep moving.
friends. Keep moving.
That man, that poor man. And I look at the pin on my, attached to me, and I like go into reflection, and I go to put my hand on Vaz, just like with kind of like a sad glint.
Like Vaz not realizing you're feeling remorse, like thinks you're talking about the guy we just intimidated, so he says it'll be fine. We'll go to his family, probably won't tell anyone about it. His job's on the line.
We need to keep moving.
All right. And then I just kind of move forward, but instead of adjusting my backpack forward, it's just the like leaning ahead, like head turned toward the ground, not really too spatially aware.
Cool, and that's Will, if you're cool, sounds like a good
Yeah.
spot to cap it off for the first session today.
Absolutely. So, gonna wrap up first episode of Numenera Age of the Awoken at this point, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully enjoyed the twists of fate and everything like that. If you did, let us know in the chat. It's been great to see so many people enjoying Numenera tonight. And of course, if you missed any of today's episode, then don't worry, because it will be on YouTube very soon, and you'll be able to watch it back then. And of course, I'll be back same time next week for this very show. Also, thank you to Level 9 Nasty and Batty808 for following your gentlemen and scholars. And if I miss anyone, then I'm sorry, but you're also a gentleman and a scholar. Again, the follows hot and heavy, coming thick today. So hopefully you enjoyed the new editing stuff of the cameras as well. That was my first time for me getting to switch scenes and do stuff like that. So that was kind of funky and kind of fun. So hopefully for all the rest of the shows, I'll be running production like that as well. So thank you guys. Thank you, Mitch, as well, for coming back for doing this season. Shout out to the Mitch. Let's go around. What do we think of today's game? What are we excited for in the future? And of course, where can we find you guys online for your own little McGubbins and streams and stuff that we get up to? So Mitch, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I'm digging it. I'm stoked to try new vibes. I'm liking the superhero stuff. You're all very different takes, which is cool. I like that. There were no fewer than 3 Easter eggs to previous Numenera seasons, for those who are into that kind of shit, for going back and tracking in the old YouTube videos. So I'm excited to get this ball rolling. You know, got a nice, good foundation from those previous seasons, stuff to draw on, but also being able to build in the longer run, given that this will be a longer show, to have a nice sort of rich sort of history of character relationships and stuff to build on as we dive into the Age of the Awoken.
Oh man, when you said that, when he looked at me and said the flight stuff, my dick was like, Seto. You're gonna have to go back and watch the previous seasons of Numenera, guys, because they are as stellar as this one. I very much enjoyed them. Awesome. And Mitch, do you still do Twitter and shit like that? Is there any way we follow you?
Not really. No, don't really have as much time for it. So if you want to see more of me, then you can come back next Monday.
Yeah, same.
Encounter
same
roleplay
place,
in
same
Numenera.
time. Awesome. Trainsy TV. What do you think of today's session, my friend?
I like how diverse the party is in terms of morality and objective. Like, it's just gonna create such a delicious soup as we go on through these quests, and it's not going to be so much like a meandering. There's going to be tension. There's going to be strife.
Oh yeah.
So, I am more than stoked, and the talent here is ridiculous. So, but yeah, I'm a full-time caster on Twitch 6 days a week. I'll be on in a moment. You can find me at twitch.tv/TrainsyTV.
Awesome. Links in there in chat, guys. Go ahead and give Trainsy a follow. Tall Squall, what do you think?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm great. I'm buzzing after that one, man.
What a cool system. It's you kind of have to almost like get yourself wrapped around the idea that there's as your only rule is your kind of your little asset pools. And
yeah.
You can do more different things. So that's really cool. Alligator guy freaked me out. He was awesome. He was really awesome.
Yeah,
one of those NPCs that Josh forces me to make in my brain in the immediate fucking prep doctor. So
it was cool.
But so that was freaking awesome, and I really liked it, and I can't wait to see how everything sort of comes together for these guys, because it's gonna get interesting. So, but around here you can find me on Mondays and Tuesdays in the 4:00 slots at Encounter Roleplay, and then Saturdays at noon I DM my own stream called The Vice, which is on my station, Tall Squall, which he put in the chat. And come check it out. We're only on episode 3. And we have that'll be coming back this Saturday, and we have lots of familiar faces from the other shows around Encounter Roleplay. I poached them mercilessly from Will. Would love to see you guys come over and check us out. We're having fun over there too.
Absolutely, go check out the Tour School. Last but not least, Josh. How did this stack up to previous seasons, Josh?
Yeah, I mean,
has Mitch lost it?
Yeah, no. Well, he's also up here, but that's.
You're still killing NPCs, so something is the same.
Something's
I think it was a weird transition for everyone, sort of going into Numenera the first time and getting to grips to. And I think I remember coming up against, and we drew swords and daggers and stuff, and then we got attacked by goblins on crystalline jet bikes with some sort of firearms, and then weird animatronic giant creatures with bipedal things with weird rifle things, and it was just okay,
it all happened.
Yeah,
We weren't even high.
we weren't even, yeah. So I think I'm very much looking forward to it. I like the ongoing story. It's great to build upon, and I think that's something you guys will hopefully really enjoy, because you get some really interesting, in-depth, quite emotional scenes come out of it, believe it or not, out of all the buggery. And I completely agree with Trinity. The diversity of the morality is going to be interesting. And we haven't even made it to the soup kitchen we're heading for yet, so more awaits. But you can find me here today and next week, same time, and also tomorrow, same time, for something known as the Hive. But more on that from Will.
Absolutely, yes. So myself, Tall Squall, and Josh will be back tomorrow, along with Skagif and Kira and possibly someone else who I've forgotten, for the Hive at 4 p.m. But before that show, before even then, at 1 p.m. EST, we've got my new Call of Cthulhu show starting. I'm so excited for it. We've got a great cast for that. And if you're interested in going to see character sheets, getting info about the campaign beforehand, go to the sheets link there and read up before the session and get as much info about the game as possible. And of course, here's all my social media. If you're wanting to follow me on places, you've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, websites, YouTube for all of the previous seasons of Numenera and daily D&D videos. Actually, about to go and shoot a couple of those for YouTube. So thank you guys for a wonderful show. I really enjoyed both our shows today. Actually, the beginner's play was awesome. I thought the beginner players were out of this world for some players who've never even played before, and then this game, as always, is just heartwarming nostalgia and I don't know, and kooky Numenera stuff. So I love Numenera, I always have, and I cannot wait for next week. Already excited for it, and I can't wait for tomorrow for Call of Cthulhu and the Hive. Tomorrow is Tuesday, which is Fright Night, so plenty of horror coming your way. New campaigns, new shows. So excited. If you enjoyed the show, hit that follow button and join us. Other than that, it's farewell from myself and the crew of Numenera, Age of the Awoken. We'll be back next week. See you guys soon. Until then, try not to roll too many net ones. We want to be here laughing when you do. Say goodbye, guys. Bye.